My friends, gather around and listen to the voice of an old man who has weathered many seasons and found solace in the wisdom of the Stoics. Today, let me share with you a reflection on what it means to train your mind so thoroughly that you learn to become, in essence, limitless. Now, when I speak of becoming limitless, I do not refer to acquiring fantastical powers or defying the laws of nature. I speak of a transformation of the mind, a shedding of self-imposed boundaries, fears, and illusions that keep us small. I speak of the Stoic path to true freedom, where the only limits that matter are the ones we place upon ourselves through ignorance or habit. With each passing year of my life, I have become more convinced that our greatest potential lies not in external achievements or accolades, but in the subtle and profound mastery of our thoughts and judgments. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Did you know only 15% of you watching are subscribed? If you find these insights valuable, join our community and tap the notification bell so you never miss out on future content. Perhaps you come to this discussion as a man somewhere between 25 and 65 years of age, navigating the complexities of career, family, friendship, and personal growth. Or maybe you find yourself in a transitional stage, having left one occupation for another, or wrestling with questions about your purpose. Regardless of your situation, Stoicism promises a radical shift in perspective. It teaches us that while external circumstances are often beyond our control, our thoughts and responses remain ours to shape. That is where your true power resides. To become limitless is to remove the shackles of despair, anxiety, envy, and regret, and to act with clarity of purpose. Allow me to begin with a story drawn from my own experience, so that we might ground these lofty ideas in something tangible. In my younger days, I worked as a craftsman's assistant, learning to shape wood and metal into useful implements. Though I took pride in my growing skills, I found myself increasingly preoccupied with thoughts about what others thought of my craftsmanship. Would they judge my work as inferior or laugh at my inexperience? These insecurities gnawed at me, constraining my willingness to experiment and learn. I was afraid to fail, not physically bound, but psychologically entangled in an ever-present concern for approval. My master saw this hesitation in me and remarked one day, "You hold yourself back more than any mistake in the workshop would." He insisted that I was free to attempt new designs, to risk imperfection, so long as I learned from each outcome. This small lesson in the workshop is the seed of what I later discovered as a core principle of Stoicism. We harm ourselves most with our own limiting beliefs and illusions. The ancient Stoics, such as Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, taught that we are all capable of a kind of inner emancipation. Epictetus, a slave in his youth, held that true freedom does not depend on one's external state, but on one's mastery over desires and aversions. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, held that even the most powerful man in the known world must guard against the tyranny of his own passions. Seneca, advisor to emperors and a man of great wealth, wrote extensively about the importance of living simply and focusing on virtue rather than excess. In each case, these figures conveyed that real power and real possibility arise from directing our minds inward, reining in our destructive impulses, and cultivating the capacity to remain tranquil amid adversity. But how does one go about training the mind in a Stoic sense? We might reflect on the practical techniques recommended by these philosophers. One such method is the continual practice of distinguishing between what lies in our control and what does not. This is perhaps the most fundamental Stoic principle. If you can separate the world into two categories, those things you can change and those things you cannot, you begin to see how much anguish and limitation arises from desiring control where you have none. Focus your efforts on what truly depends on you, your judgments, your intentions, your actions, and the way you choose to interpret events. Practice letting go of the rest, not in a lazy or indifferent manner, but with the recognition that to fight against what you cannot alter is a recipe for perpetual frustration. Think about the constraints you might be feeling in your own life. Perhaps you feel you've hit a plateau in your career, or you believe you are too old or too inexperienced to embark on a new path. Maybe you worry about your financial status, the opinions of your peers, or the direction of society. Much of this worry arises from the false notion that external achievements define your worth, or that you must conquer circumstances entirely to find peace. The Stoics remind us that while we certainly strive to do well and contribute positively to the world, our sense of self should not hinge on outcomes outside our control. If you become fixated on the thought, "I cannot be happy or free until I secure a higher position, more wealth, or universal approval," you hand over your tranquility and power to factors beyond your command. To become limitless, paradoxically, involves recognizing the inherent limits of our external influence, and in so doing, unleashing the mind's capacity to adapt, persevere, and find contentment. An essential exercise in this regard is negative visualization, or what some call the premeditation of evils. Before you recoil at the name, let me clarify its purpose. Stoics advise that you regularly imagine losing the comforts and securities you currently possess, your home, your job, your health, your loved ones. This is not a morbid fixation, but a preparation of the mind. By acknowledging the impermanence of all external goods and relationships, you train yourself to face life's uncertainties without panic or despair. You come to appreciate what you have, and you steel yourself against the fear of loss. It is fear that often constrains our actions. We do not try new things because we fear failure, or we cling to what we have because we fear scarcity. Negative visualization helps us see that even if we were to lose these externals, the core of who we are, our ability to respond with virtue, remains intact. This clarity can empower you to stretch beyond the limits your fear imposes. Let us consider an example. Suppose you have an aspiration to write a book or start a business. You might feel restricted by the fear of criticism or the possibility of financial loss. The mind races. "I'm too old to try this now," or "people will mock me if I fail." These are precisely the sorts of thoughts that fence us in, preventing growth. A Stoic approach would be to calmly accept that failure and criticism are possible. Indeed, they are part of the uncertain tapestry of human life. Yet they do not define your worth or your freedom. You would imagine the worst-case scenario, face it in your mind, and recognize that even in such a case, your character remains yours to shape. This mental exercise frees you to act, not recklessly, but with measured courage, unshackled from the dread that so often chokes creativity. If the project succeeds, wonderful. If it does not, you remain the kind of person who dared to try, learned lessons, and can move on without regret or a damaged sense of self. Perhaps the next step in training your mind to become limitless is to cultivate what Marcus Aurelius called objective judgment. He emphasized the notion that events themselves are neutral. It is we who label them as good or bad. By changing our interpretation, we change our experience. This does not mean we deny pain or injustice. Rather, we avoid layering additional misery upon ourselves by attaching catastrophic or self-defeating narratives to events. For instance, if you encounter a setback at work, say, a promotion you sought goes to someone else, a typical reaction might be to fall into despair, cursing your luck or questioning your worth. The Stoic shift would be to see the situation for what it is. The outcome did not go your way. Nothing more, nothing less. You can still perform your duties with excellence, you can still be honorable, and you can still chart a path forward. By removing the layer of catastrophic thinking, "I am a failure. This is the end of my advancement," you free yourself from the mental chains that hamper your resolve. Seneca spoke often about how fortune can elevate or humble us, yet virtue remains a solid ground that neither fortune's blessings nor curses can shake. If you define yourself by external fortune, wealth, status, recognition, your sense of self expands and contracts with every shift of circumstance, leaving you perpetually vulnerable. But if you anchor yourself in the commitment to reason, honesty, resilience, and moral rectitude, no turn of events can truly rob you of what matters most. Let us remember this, especially in an age where so many measure themselves against the fleeting benchmarks of social media popularity, public applause, or fleeting career triumphs. Those are illusions of success. True success lies in the peaceful confidence that you are living in harmony with your highest principles, refusing to be swayed by the passing storms of luck. Let me tell you another story, one that underscores the power of perspective. In my middle years, I took a risk by joining a friend's venture, pouring my savings and energy into a small business that promised to be innovative. For a time, things went well, and we saw modest growth. I found myself feeling proud, perhaps too proud, of this new identity as an entrepreneur. Yet, as the tides of the market turned, we experienced losses, culminating in the closure of that business. Many of my peers regarded me as unlucky or foolish. Initially, I felt humiliation and regret, weighed down by the sense that I had overreached. But I remembered the Stoic precepts I had studied. I decided to reinterpret the experience not as a personal indictment, but as a valuable lesson. I recognized that while I had lost money and status, I had gained insights into teamwork, financial management, and my own capacity for risk-taking. Rather than wallowing in the notion of failure, I reframed the event as a stepping stone. In so doing, I found a way forward, eventually applying those lessons to more fruitful pursuits. The mind, unbound by the destructive label of failure, proved to be limitless in its ability to adapt and move on. What does it look like then to live each day with this Stoic sense of limitlessness? It means that when you wake in the morning, you remind yourself that you can handle whatever the day brings, provided you keep your judgments and intentions aligned with virtue. You do not fear the unpredictable phone call, the fluctuation of the stock market, or the disappointment of an unfulfilled expectation. Rather, you commit to responding wisely, ethically, and calmly, come what may. In small, habitual acts of self-discipline, rising at a set time, engaging in mindful reflection, perhaps practicing simple daily exercises of the body or the mind, you train yourself for life's bigger challenges. Like a warrior practicing with a wooden sword before the battle, you prepare your mental reflexes for adversity. Bit by bit, you discover that the constraints you assumed were absolute begin to recede. Another dimension of this training involves the consistent practice of gratitude. While Stoicism is often misunderstood as cold or detached, the teachings encourage a profound appreciation for life. Marcus Aurelius frequently expressed thanks for the people and opportunities he encountered. By nurturing gratitude, whether for health, for relationships, or even for the obstacles that sharpen our will, we open our minds to possibility rather than scarcity. This shift in attitude can remove the sense of limitation we feel when we constantly focus on what we lack. When you practice gratitude, you see that you already possess much of what you need to lead a content and purposeful life, even if your ambitions urge you to pursue more. That realization can embolden you to act from a place of abundance instead of fear. Let us address a common misconception that to become limitless in a Stoic sense means to become a sort of emotionless automaton, never flinching or rejoicing. Stoicism does not advocate the suppression of natural human feeling. Rather, it teaches us to examine our emotions critically, to identify those that arise from flawed judgments, and to refine our emotional life so that it aligns with reason. The negative emotions that spring from illusions of control or from inordinate attachment are those we aim to dissolve. But love, compassion, and a righteous indignation at true injustice can remain, shaped by wisdom and directed towards the greater good. A mind trained in Stoicism does not become less human. It becomes more resilient and clear-sighted, more capable of constructive action. Consider for a moment the very notion of being limitless. At first glance, one might think it implies a kind of grandiosity, the idea that we can do anything at all if we put our minds to it. Yet the Stoic notion is subtler. We seek to remove self-imposed limits, illusions, and fears. We do not pretend we can alter the laws of physics or guarantee certain outcomes. Instead, we expand our sense of agency by focusing on the domain that truly belongs to us, our moral and intellectual faculties. From that vantage point, we discover that we can face challenges we once deemed insurmountable, endure trials we once believed would shatter us, and maintain integrity in situations we previously thought would compromise us. This is the power that the great Stoics sought to unleash, the mind freed from illusions, free to commit wholeheartedly to virtue, come what may. A practical tip that I often share with younger men, and indeed with anyone who wishes to deepen their Stoic practice, is to adopt a routine of morning and evening reflection. In the morning, you might sit quietly for a few minutes, considering the day ahead. Ask yourself, what tasks lie before me, and how can I approach them with wisdom and composure? What potential distractions or irritations might arise, and how will I choose to respond? By mentally rehearsing these situations, you reduce the risk of being blindsided by them. In the evening, set aside another few minutes to review how the day went. Did you remain steadfast in the face of frustration? Did you let petty annoyances overshadow your better judgment? Did you act in ways that align with your principles, or did you slip into old habits of blaming and complaining? This daily cycle of preparation and review is akin to training sessions in a gym. It builds mental muscles over time. As you do this, you will find that certain themes emerge, moments where you realize you felt limited by a fear of social judgment or by an irrational impatience. In shining a light on these moments, you begin the process of dissolving those mental constraints. The next time a similar situation arises, you'll recall your evening reflection and consciously choose a different path. That is the essence of mental training in Stoicism, a continuous practice of self-awareness, correction, and improvement. Let me circle back to an essential principle, one that often goes overlooked in modern interpretations of Stoicism: the primacy of virtue. The Stoics did not merely want us to be calm in adversity, they wanted us to be good, honest, just, courageous, and disciplined. This moral focus is not a secondary concern, it is central to the Stoic vision of a flourishing life. You might ask, how does the pursuit of virtue relate to becoming limitless? The answer is that a life guided by virtue is inherently free of the self-imposed constraints that come from vice and misguided desires. A dishonest person is forever bound by the need to maintain their falsehoods. A greedy person is perpetually limited by the fear of loss and the drive for more. An intemperate person is controlled by cravings that warp their judgment. By contrast, if you ground yourself in virtue, you move through the world with integrity. You are not encumbered by the webs of deceit, envy, or excessive craving. This moral clarity creates an inner expansiveness, the sense that you can act decisively and fearlessly because your conscience is clean and your intentions are honorable. In the context of everyday life, this means that training your mind to be limitless involves cultivating ethical habits as much as mental discipline. You commit to telling the truth even when it's inconvenient. You practice fairness even when you could gain an advantage through manipulation. You exhibit temperance, refusing to indulge every temptation or impulse that arises. By doing these things consistently, your confidence in your own character grows, and that confidence translates into a greater willingness to take on challenges. You trust yourself to handle difficulties not just competently, but ethically. This self-trust is a powerful antidote to hesitation and self-doubt. One might argue, but what of ambition, striving, and success in the worldly sense? Don't these require a certain drive that might clash with Stoic detachment? The Stoics, especially someone like Marcus Aurelius, who held the highest position in the empire, would say that ambition can coexist with virtue, provided that you keep your motivations pure and remain aware that externals are not the ultimate measure of worth. Ambition becomes destructive when it is fueled by ego, envy, or a misguided belief that wealth or status is the key to happiness. Ambition becomes noble when it is directed toward improving the world and honing your talents in service of something greater. Thus, you can train yourself to excel in your profession or your art without letting failure or success define who you are at your core. You work diligently, with dedication, but you do not place your entire self-esteem on the outcome. If you fail, you learn and persist. If you succeed, you remain humble and continue striving to do good. In this manner, you blend worldly ambition with Stoic wisdom, discovering that the real limitlessness lies in the capacity to keep growing, keep evolving, without being tethered to fleeting triumphs or tribulations. Now, I want to speak briefly about the social dimension of becoming limitless. We are not isolated beings. Our interactions with family, friends, colleagues, and society at large play a major role in our experience of freedom or limitation. A Stoic does not seek to become an aloof hermit, indifferent to social bonds. On the contrary, Marcus Aurelius emphasized the idea that human beings are made for cooperation, like feet or hands working together. So, what is the Stoic approach to relationships in the context of mental training? It is to engage with others wholeheartedly, yet maintain autonomy over one's own mind. We care for others, support them, and perform our social duties, but we remain aware that we cannot control their behavior or beliefs. We do not tie our emotional well-being to their approval, nor do we lash out when they fail to meet our expectations. Instead, we bring our best self to the relationship, a self shaped by virtue and self-awareness, and allow others the dignity of their own choices. This perspective can liberate us from the endless cycles of resentment and disappointment that plague those who assume they can bend others to their will. Imagine the scenario of a father guiding his adult children through their own life challenges. The father might be tempted to try to solve every problem for them, or to become anxious when they do not follow his advice. A Stoic father would instead provide guidance, love, and resources where appropriate, but he would acknowledge that each child's choices lie outside his sphere of control. His mind remains at peace, for he trusts in the principles he has imparted. He does not see their mistakes as a reflection of his own worth, nor does he see their accomplishments as his personal triumph. He is free from the emotional turmoil of unbridled attachment, yet still caring and engaged. This equilibrium is a hallmark of the Stoic, who has trained his mind to respect both his own agency and the agency of others. Thus, The social dimension of Stoic practice reveals another path to limitlessness. We cease to define ourselves through the eyes of others and instead act from a wellspring of inner conviction. This does not make us selfish. Rather, it enables us to be more consistent and reliable in our relationships, for we are not buffeted by insecurity or raging ego. Over time, people may come to respect this steadiness, and we find that our influence grows naturally because our counsel is anchored in calm reason rather than emotional reactivity. Now let me invite you to begin this journey of training your mind, if you have not done so already, or to deepen it, if you are already on the path. Reflect on one area in your life where you feel limited. It might be a habit you've long wanted to break, a goal you've been too afraid to chase, or a relationship dynamic that causes ongoing frustration. Apply the Stoic principle of control. Identify what parts of that situation truly lie within your power. Then decide how you will address those aspects, through altered perspective, renewed discipline, or a change in your actions. Accept the aspects that lie beyond your influence. By focusing on your mental and moral faculties, you'll find that even long-standing problems begin to loosen their grip. This is the beginning of discovering that you are far less bound than you once imagined. As we bring this first part of our extended reflection to a close, let me echo the words of Marcus Aurelius, who wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Indeed, the strength of which he spoke is precisely the key to becoming limitless. It is not a mystical notion, it is the logical consequence of understanding that your mind, and your mind alone, shapes your experience of life. By training it in the Stoic manner, through reasoned reflection, moral discipline, and a clear recognition of what is and is not in our control, you gradually dissolve the artificial boundaries that fear, ignorance, and ego impose. Life then becomes an arena in which you engage fully, without the crippling weight of self-doubt or destructive passion. You begin to sense deep in your bones that no matter the circumstance, you can remain true to yourself, at peace, and fully alive. Let us now delve further into the process of training your mind to become limitless, anchoring ourselves more deeply in the wisdom of Stoicism. In the previous section, we sketched the broad contours, the importance of distinguishing between what lies within our control and what does not, the exercise of negative visualization, the reframing of events through objective judgment, the daily discipline of morning and evening reflections, and the moral underpinnings of Stoic thought. We shall now expand these themes, introducing additional techniques and exploring the nuances that can help you internalize and apply these teachings in your life. First, it is worth clarifying why we Stoics speak so much about the mind rather than the body. It might appear that by focusing on mental exercises, we neglect the physical dimension. But this is not the case. The Stoics recognize the importance of caring for the body, maintaining health and fitness as part of one's duty. However, they also understood that even the strongest body is vulnerable to injury, disease, and the ravages of time, whereas the mind, properly trained, can remain free and resilient under the harshest conditions. Think of Epictetus, who was physically disabled, yet became one of the greatest teachers of Stoic philosophy. His leg was crippled, but his mind soared beyond the confines of circumstance. It is precisely because the mind transcends physical boundaries that Stoicism emphasizes it so heavily. When we talk about becoming limitless, we are primarily referring to the expansion of the mind's capacity to adapt, remain tranquil, and exercise virtue under any condition. This does not mean the body is irrelevant. Indeed, bodily discipline supports mental discipline. Many Stoics practiced moderate habits of exercise, rest, and diet as part of their pursuit of virtue, but the real seat of your freedom is your capacity for rational choice and self-awareness. Let us probe further the practice of negative visualization. Some people misunderstand it as wallowing in grim fantasies, yet its intent is quite different. By imagining the loss of what we cherish, we steel ourselves against the shock of adversity. Furthermore, by contemplating such loss, we become more grateful for what we have. In practical terms, you might occasionally take a few moments to envision life without your comfortable home, your steady job, or even some of your physical abilities. Through this mental rehearsal, you do not become morbidly obsessed. Rather, you become appreciative. You might wake up the next day in your same house with your same job and realize that these are not guaranteed rights, but blessings. That sense of gratitude can fuel a more engaged and wholehearted approach to daily life. It also reduces the terror of losing these things in the future, because in a sense, you have already prepared yourself. In my own experience, negative visualization helped me endure a tumultuous economic period when I was younger. Amid the uncertainty, I found comfort in reminding myself that even if I lost my possessions, I would still have my ability to work, to reason, and to form meaningful relationships. That mental preparation proved invaluable when I indeed had to part with certain luxuries and tighten my budget. Rather than spiraling into despair, I adapted, guided by the knowledge that my core identity and resources for resilience remained intact. Another powerful Stoic technique for training the mind is what I call value clarification. We often limit ourselves when we chase after things that do not truly align with our deepest values. For instance, if you find yourself embroiled in office politics, constantly jockeying for favor or recognition, pause and reflect. Is this truly what you value, or have you been swept up by the currents of social expectation? If the latter, consider redirecting your energy toward tasks that genuinely resonate with your sense of purpose. By aligning your pursuits with your authentic values, you remove the internal friction that often undermines our efforts. That alignment brings a sense of liberation, because you are no longer a slave to superficial measures of success. You become, in effect, limitless in your sense of internal motivation and direction. Seneca offered a reminder that time is our most precious commodity. If you value wisdom, family, creativity, or service above trivial distractions, direct your energies accordingly. Many men find themselves constrained by a sense of duty to maintain appearances or social standing, funneling their efforts into shallow aims. This misalignment creates an inner tension, a sense that life is being wasted on pursuits that do not truly matter. The Stoic solution is straightforward, but not easy. Reflect on what you genuinely cherish and prioritize it in your daily life. That act of prioritization requires discipline, for it may mean turning down invitations that do not serve your higher goals, or having the courage to walk away from a lucrative but soul-crushing venture. In addition to negative visualization and value clarification, the Stoics strongly advocated self-restraint or temperance as a means of training the mind. Temperance is the virtue that governs our appetites and impulses. By consciously choosing to limit our indulgences, we cultivate an inner fortitude. Consider the example of restricting certain comforts for brief periods, perhaps skipping a meal or sleeping on a simpler bed, merely to remind yourself that you can endure discomfort. Seneca wrote of sometimes dining on the simplest fare, wearing coarse clothing and asking himself, "Is this what I feared?" By voluntarily exposing ourselves to mild hardship, we reduce the mental barriers that arise when we encounter adversity outside our control. Temperance helps us realize that we can be content with less than we imagine, and that many of our perceived needs are in fact preferences or habits. There is a subtlety here, though. The goal is not to become an ascetic hermit, denying yourself pleasure or comfort for the sake of punishment. Rather, the aim is to remind yourself that you are larger than your cravings or aversions. You can choose how to respond to them. This sense of choice is precisely what fosters the feeling of limitlessness. A person who is constantly at the mercy of impulses, whether for food, drink, validation, or entertainment, has little freedom. By practicing temperance, you shift the balance of power to your rational will. Over time, you'll notice that many of the activities or items you once felt you had to have become optional, leaving you freer to direct your resources toward what truly matters. Let us touch upon the importance of self-reflection in this process. Stoics often emphasize journaling or a meditative review of the day. If you find yourself short on time, even a few minutes of quiet contemplation can suffice. Write or think about situations in which you acted in ways that aligned with your ideals and those in which you faltered. The aim is not self-flagellation, but learning. By pinpointing where you succumbed to anger, anxiety, or vanity, you can devise strategies to handle similar scenarios more gracefully in the future. If you celebrated small victories, moments of patience or generosity, acknowledge them and reinforce your capacity for good action. Over weeks and months, this practice shapes your mental reflexes, making it more natural to choose the Stoic path of reason and virtue in the heat of the moment. It is also beneficial to study the lives and words of the ancient Stoics and other wise individuals. Seneca's letters, Marcus Aurelius's meditations, and Epictetus's discourses remain instructive thousands of years later because they address the core of the human condition, our vulnerability to fear, anger, and despair, and our capacity to transcend these through philosophy. By reading these texts not as historical curiosities, but as manuals for living, you immerse yourself in a tradition of wisdom. This daily or weekly study can serve as a reminder that you are not alone in your struggles and that countless individuals before you have found a way to persevere. Such study also connects you to a lineage of thought, a sense that you are partaking in a grand conversation about the best way to live. Now, let us consider the role of courage in becoming limitless. Courage, for the Stoics, is not merely about battlefield valor. It is the willingness to face difficulties, be they external challenges or internal doubts, without abandoning reason or virtue. Many times our sense of limitation stems from fear. Fear of failure, fear of ridicule, fear of the unknown. To train your mind in courage, you might start with small acts of bravery. If you habitually shy away from speaking your truth in a meeting or a family discussion, practice doing so, politely but firmly. If you often avoid new tasks because you worry about making mistakes, deliberately place yourself in learning situations where mistakes are inevitable and treat them as part of the growth process. Each time you confront a fear head-on, you strengthen the muscle of courage. Over time, larger challenges become less daunting, and you realize that most limitations are illusions shaped by anxiety. This does not mean you become reckless. Stoic courage is tempered by wisdom, but it does mean that you do not let fear dominate your decisions. Hand in hand with courage is the virtue of perseverance or endurance. No matter how well you train your mind, you will encounter setbacks. There will be days when your best-laid plans come undone, or when your stoic composure falters in the face of provocation. The key to becoming limitless is not to avoid these stumbles altogether, but to rise each time you fall, learning from the slip. Epictetus reminds us that philosophy is a practice, not a mere theory. If you find yourself succumbing to anger or anxiety, take note, reflect on the cause, and resolve to do better next time. This iterative process of trial, reflection, and recommitment is where true growth happens. People sometimes believe that philosophers or Stoics remain serene at all times. In reality, we all wrestle with passions. The difference is that the Stoic man commits to continuous improvement, never using his lapses as excuses to abandon the path. As we deepen our exploration, it's valuable to highlight the social element once again. While Stoicism can be pursued individually, community support can greatly enhance one's progress. Seek out conversations with like-minded individuals or join groups that explore philosophy and self-improvement. Discussing Stoic ideas with others can clarify your understanding, challenge your assumptions, and provide mutual encouragement. If such groups are not available locally, online communities or reading circles can fill the gap. The key is to nurture your Stoic mind in an environment that values reason, virtue, and respect. Be mindful, though, not to turn Stoicism into an echo chamber of self-righteousness. True Stoicism remains grounded in humility and the awareness that we are all students of life. Moreover, do not be surprised if those around you notice changes in your demeanor as you train your mind. You may become calmer under stress, less reactive to petty slights, more measured in your speech. Some may admire these qualities, while others might feel unsettled, especially if they have relied on your past weaknesses to manipulate or bond with you through negativity. Remain compassionate, but stay firm. Your growth is a testament to what is possible, and it may inspire others to re-evaluate their own limits. One potential obstacle to all this is modern society's emphasis on instant gratification. Stoic mind training is incremental, requiring patience and consistency. In a world where we expect rapid results, from weight loss programs to financial schemes, it can be frustrating to realize that philosophical growth unfolds gradually. Yet that is precisely why Stoicism is powerful. It deals with fundamental aspects of human nature that do not yield to quick fixes. Embrace the long journey, and you will find that each small insight and improvement accumulates over time, shaping you into a more confident, compassionate, and fearless individual. Now, some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better every day," so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Let us also address the matter of emotional intelligence. Stoic training does not advocate suppressing feelings. Rather, it seeks to harness them wisely. For instance, if you feel anger, ask yourself what triggered it. Is it truly the external event, or is it your interpretation of that event, your assumption that you have been personally affronted or wronged? By examining the root of anger, you often find that it is tied to expectations or judgments. Adjusting those judgments can dissipate much of the anger. Similarly, if you feel sadness or grief, Stoicism does not demand that you push it away. Instead, it encourages you to honor those feelings as natural responses, while reminding yourself that you can bear them and that they will pass in time. The notion of limitlessness emerges here in recognizing that our emotional states, though powerful, need not drown our rational faculties. We can acknowledge, process, and integrate emotions without becoming their slave. Another aspect to contemplate is how Stoic mind training influences our sense of purpose or meaning. Many men reach a stage in life where they question whether their daily efforts matter or whether there is some higher calling they should pursue. Stoicism does not hand you a one-size-fits-all purpose, but it does suggest that a life dedicated to virtue, wisdom, and the service of the common good is inherently meaningful. This pursuit can manifest in countless ways, through your profession, your family life, your volunteer work, or your creative endeavors. By aligning with these higher principles, you transform ordinary tasks into expressions of character. The limitlessness we speak of is partly about transcending nihilism and recognizing that you have the capacity to contribute positively to the world, regardless of your station. An illustrative anecdote may help here. I once knew a colleague who felt trapped in a monotonous job. Each day he would complain about the drudgery and fantasize about quitting. Over time, he stumbled upon Stoic teachings and began to see that while he might not have immediate control over his employment situation, he did control his attitude and his approach to work. He started experimenting with ways to find meaning in the tasks he performed, seeing them as opportunities to practice diligence, precision, and service to others. He also began using his free time more constructively, studying new skills that aligned with his deeper interests. Gradually, as his mindset shifted, new possibilities opened up. He secured a better position, but more importantly, his sense of self-worth no longer hinged on whether he had an ideal job. He had trained his mind to find meaning wherever he was. This is the essence of Stoic limitlessness. You bring your values and mindset to any situation, reshaping your experience from within. Now, you might ask, isn't there a danger of complacency? If I can find meaning and contentment in any situation, will I lose the drive to improve my circumstances? The Stoics would say no. Tranquility of mind is not the same as passivity. You may well choose to pursue a new job, campaign against injustice, or innovate in your field. What changes is your internal posture. You no longer act out of desperation or a sense of incompleteness. Rather, you act from a place of centered resolve and moral clarity. This actually heightens your effectiveness because you are not sabotaged by anxiety or consumed by frustration when obstacles arise. You work diligently on external goals while recognizing that your true fulfillment is not at the mercy of outcomes. This combination of outward effort and inward equanimity is a hallmark of Stoic mastery. As we approach the end of this second section, I invite you to reflect on how these ideas might play out in your own life this very week. Identify a challenge or situation that feels confining, a place where you sense your limits. Perhaps it is an interpersonal conflict or a daunting project. Apply the Stoic lens. Ask yourself what part of the situation is truly up to you. Focus your mental energy there while relinquishing attachment to what is not. Practice negative visualization if you find yourself paralyzed by fear of loss or embarrassment. Lean on your values, remembering that aligning with them brings integrity and reduces internal friction. Engage in small acts of courage and temperance to strengthen your resolve. Finally, reflect each evening on your progress, not with harsh self-criticism, but with the measured eye of a student refining his craft. By systematically implementing these practices, you build a momentum that can profoundly shift your experience of life. Adversities that once seemed insurmountable become stepping stones to growth. Your sense of self expands beyond the confines of superficial success or failure. You begin to see that you are indeed more capable and more resilient than you realized. This is the steady unfolding of the limitless mind, the Stoic mind that neither cowers in the face of misfortune nor becomes intoxicated by fortune's gifts. It is a mind that finds its roots in rational agency and virtue, standing firm no matter how fiercely the winds of change blow. We come now to the third phase of this reflection on training your mind to become limitless under the guidance of Stoicism. By now, you will have grasped the fundamental practices: negative visualization, distinguishing what is in and out of our control, cultivating virtue as the bedrock of freedom, harnessing courage, temperance, and perseverance. We have explored how these methods apply to daily life, from workplace dilemmas to personal ambitions and relationships. Let us deepen the discussion further, venturing into the subtler psychological aspects of Stoic training and examining how this philosophy might intersect with our modern world. One crucial idea we have yet to emphasize fully is the Stoic perspective on time. Marcus Aurelius wrote frequently about the brevity of life and the importance of recognizing its fleeting nature. Far from encouraging despair, this awareness of mortality can energize us to make the most of each day. If we live as though time is infinite, we often squander it in trivial pursuits. But when we confront the reality that our days are numbered, each moment becomes an opportunity to refine our character, serve others, or explore our creative capacities. This sense of urgency can be a powerful driver to overcome self-imposed limits. After all, if we understand that we have only a finite window to cultivate our potential and make a positive impact, why waste another hour cowering behind fears or habits that no longer serve us? A related concept is the Stoic call to live in accordance with nature. The ancients meant several things by nature: the natural order of the universe, the nature of human beings as rational and social creatures, and one's individual nature or talents. To become limitless, a Stoic seeks to align his choices with the rational and social aspects of human nature, acting ethically, respecting reason, and contributing to the community. At the same time, he recognizes his individual dispositions and gifts, endeavoring to make the most of them without being ensnared by envy of others' talents. This alignment fosters a sense of harmony that dissolves many of the psychological conflicts that limit us. Instead of wishing to be someone else or living in contradiction to our values, we embrace who we are and the role we can play in the grand web of existence. Modern society, however, is rife with distractions and distortions. The relentless pace of social media, the pressure to perform, and the flood of information can leave us feeling scattered. A Stoic approach to these challenges is not to reject technology outright, but to use it wisely. We can apply the same principle of distinguishing between what is in our control, how we engage with digital tools, and what is not, the endless stream of content. If you find your mind constantly fixated on comparisons or cravings triggered by online platforms, practice moderation. Set boundaries for how often and how long you immerse yourself in these digital spaces. Approach them with a purpose, seeking knowledge, connection, or inspiration, and disengage when the purpose is fulfilled. In doing so, you preserve your mental clarity, reminding yourself that your worth is not measured in likes or digital affirmations. This discipline fosters a sense of mental expansiveness. You are no longer a pawn of digital algorithms, but a deliberate user of technology who retains autonomy over thought and attention. Let us also address a common stumbling block in Stoic practice: the tension between acceptance of events and the desire for change. Some newcomers worry that if they practice Stoic acceptance of external circumstances, they will become passive and fail to strive for progress. In truth, the Stoics advocate acceptance of the present moment as it is, coupled with directed action to shape the future where one can. Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, did not simply resign himself to the empire's challenges. He worked tirelessly to govern well, reform laws, and defend borders. But he also understood that the outcomes were not solely his to dictate. Thus, Stoic acceptance is not fatalism. It is a clear-eyed recognition of the reality before us, followed by purposeful engagement with what we can influence. This approach frees us from the frustration of wishing reality were otherwise. and allows us to channel our energy effectively into solutions. When you remove the emotional baggage of complaint and resistance, you become more effective at addressing real problems. We should also explore the Stoic practice of self-dialogue. It is said that one of the best ways to fortify your mind is to talk yourself through difficulties in the manner of a compassionate but firm mentor. For instance, if you find yourself ruminating on a setback, ask, "Does this event truly harm my capacity for virtue? Is my discomfort here more about wounded pride than real damage? Can I find a constructive action to take right now?" By posing such questions, you shift from passive victimhood to active analysis. Epictetus would remind his students that the real measure of adversity is whether it disrupts our moral reasoning. Physical discomfort, financial loss, or social disapproval cannot poison your mind unless you permit it. Through conscious self-dialogue, you develop the habit of questioning negative assumptions and recalibrating your perspective. A further layer of Stoic mind training involves the concept of role ethics. The Stoics recognized that each of us occupies multiple roles. We may be fathers, husbands, employees, citizens, or community leaders. Each role has certain duties or expectations. To become limitless in your mind, it helps to reflect on these roles and how they interconnect with your Stoic commitments. For example, as a father, your role might demand patience, guidance, and the provision of a stable environment. As a citizen, it might call for participation in civic life, respect for the law, and advocacy for justice. When you recognize these duties, you find clarity in situations where competing demands arise. You also prevent yourself from drifting into selfishness or apathy because you see that your choices affect others. This sense of responsibility can expand your sense of purpose, reinforcing the idea that you have an impact on the world around you, even if only in a small sphere. That knowledge can be a catalyst for pushing beyond self-imposed boundaries. Now, let us touch on the Stoic view of emotions once more, especially in the context of deep personal loss or tragedy. The limitlessness we speak of does not imply that you will never grieve or feel sorrow. Stoicism recognizes that certain emotions, like sadness at the death of a loved one, are natural and even appropriate. The key is that you do not let these emotions turn into prolonged despair or a rejection of life's course. You allow yourself to feel the grief, honor it, and then gradually return to the recognition that life continues to offer avenues for growth and meaning. The limitlessness is thus in your capacity to rebound, to honor the transient nature of all things without becoming permanently stuck. In many ways, it is about resilience rather than detachment. Consider an example. A man who loses a close friend might experience a wave of sadness, which is natural. The Stoic approach is to channel that sadness into gratitude for the shared memories and reflection on one's own mortality. This reflection might spur him to live more fully, to avoid petty squabbles, and to appreciate the friends and family who remain. In the face of tragedy, the untrained mind can spiral into hopelessness, while the Stoic mind acknowledges pain, yet discerns lessons and inspiration. Another cornerstone of Stoic mind training is the development of mindful presence. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly counseled himself to be here now, to focus on the present action rather than get lost in regrets about the past or fantasies about the future. When we become consumed by what was or what might be, we sabotage our ability to act effectively in the current moment. We also limit our capacity for joy, which often arises from fully immersing ourselves in the task at hand or the conversation we are engaged in. Mindful presence does not require elaborate rituals. It is a simple moment-to-moment discipline. Each time you notice your mind wandering into worry or rumination, gently bring it back to the present. Over time, this practice sharpens your focus and reduces anxiety. You realize that much of our suffering arises from mental time travel, lamenting something that cannot be changed, or fearing something that has not yet happened. In conjunction with mindful presence, we might explore the power of deliberate focus. Stoics recognized that the mind can be a chaos of impressions if left unchecked. By practicing single-pointed focus, whether on your breath, your reading, or a task, you learn to channel mental energy. This skill counters modern distractions and cultivates an inner stability. The more stable your mind, the less you will find yourself at the mercy of fleeting urges or external pressures. This too contributes to the sense of limitlessness, as your mind becomes a reliable instrument under your command, rather than a wild horse dragging you wherever it pleases. Let us not forget the role of aesthetics and beauty in Stoic thought. While often portrayed as austere, many Stoics appreciated the beauty of nature, art, and harmonious order. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the patterns of nature, the magnificence of cosmic order. Contemplating beauty can uplift the mind and expand its perspective beyond petty concerns. It reminds us that we are part of something grander. When you pause to watch a sunrise, admire a well-crafted piece of furniture, or listen attentively to music that stirs you, you open your heart to a sense of wonder. This wonder can dissolve the narrow confines of self-centered thought, connecting you to a universal harmony. The Stoic sees in such moments an opportunity to reflect on the transience of all things and the underlying unity of life. This reflection can reinforce your commitment to living wisely and compassionately, for you see that you are not an isolated being, but part of an interconnected web. In our modern world, many men struggle with a sense of isolation or nihilism, driven by fragmented communities and a barrage of unsettling news. The Stoic path to limitlessness can alleviate this sense of alienation by drawing you back to your sphere of influence, reminding you that your actions, however small, can manifest virtue and create ripples of positive effect. It shows you that you belong to a lineage of thoughtful individuals who have wrestled with similar doubts and found a way to live meaningfully. It also assures you that your essence, your capacity for reason and moral choice, remains inviolable, no matter how tumultuous the world becomes. Let us illustrate with another personal anecdote. In my later years, I found myself troubled by global events, wars, famines, political turmoil, wondering if my small contributions made any difference. I turned to Marcus Aurelius, who often reminded himself that one's task is to do what is just, speak what is true, and remain kind. The outcome, whether recognized by the masses or not, should not dissuade us. This perspective rekindled my sense of agency. While I could not single-handedly end global strife, I could influence my immediate environment for the better. I could volunteer my skills, offer mentorship, or donate resources where needed. Each small act, grounded in reason and virtue, expands our sense of what is possible. Over time, such acts accumulate, and we discover that our circle of influence is broader than we initially believed. This is how the mind becomes limitless, by refusing to yield to cynicism and instead persistently acting on principle. Another practice that can be woven into your Stoic routine is the concept of self-reliance balanced with interdependence. Epictetus teaches self-reliance in the sense that you must take responsibility for your judgments and happiness. Yet the Stoics also recognize the social nature of human beings. Self-reliance does not mean you never seek help or collaboration. It means you do not outsource your moral and emotional well-being to others. For instance, if you need advice or assistance, you ask for it without shame. But if that assistance does not come, you do not collapse into despair, for you still maintain the power to adapt and seek alternatives. In other words, you remain flexible and resourceful, never placing your entire worth or survival in the hands of others. This balanced approach prevents both the loneliness of radical individualism and the dependency of those who cannot stand on their own feet. If you wish to integrate these concepts systematically, consider establishing a daily Stoic routine. Upon waking, reaffirm your commitment to live virtuously, perhaps by reading a short passage from a Stoic text or silently reciting a maxim. Today, I shall meet people who are vain, ungrateful, or dishonest, but I will not be harmed by them if I keep to reason. Then, through the day, practice mindful presence and self-dialogue whenever challenges arise. In the evening, engage in reflective journaling, noting where you succeeded or struggled in applying Stoic principles. This cyclical process, study, application, reflection, anchors Stoic philosophy in lived experience. It transforms abstract ideas into tangible habits that reshape how you perceive and respond to the world. Let us also consider the aspirational dimension of Stoicism. While the philosophy is pragmatic, it also invites us to aim at moral and mental excellence. You may have role models, figures from history, mentors in your life, or archetypal heroes. The Stoics would tell you to contemplate how these figures embody virtue, courage, or clarity of mind, and then emulate their traits. This is not hero worship. It is the cultivation of an internal standard that pulls you upward. When you are tempted to act ignobly, ask, would my role model do this? How would they handle this situation? Even if you do not reach their level, you will improve by aspiring to something greater than your current self. Perhaps you've come to realize that one of the greatest obstacles to becoming limitless is self-doubt. A nagging internal voice that says, I am not good enough, I cannot change, or I've failed before, so I'll fail again. Stoicism directly counters this voice by reminding you that you are defined not by your past, but by your present capacity for moral choice. Every moment is a fresh opportunity to act with wisdom and courage. The mistakes of the past need not dictate your future, provided you learn from them. This perspective can dissolve the chains of shame or regret, liberating you to pursue new endeavors. Life is a continuous series of nows, and in each now, you can choose the Stoic path. Moreover, your self-concept expands when you view yourself as part of a larger story. Stoicism situates you within the grand continuum of nature, reminding you that you have a role to play in the cosmic order, however small it may seem. This cosmic perspective can be humbling and empowering simultaneously. Humbling because you see how vast the universe is. Empowering because you realize that your rational faculties link you to that grand design. You can reflect its order and harmony in your own sphere by living virtuously. This can give a sense of cosmic significance to your day-to-day choices, dispelling the notion that you are an isolated, meaningless fragment. To wrap up this third segment, let us recall that the journey toward a limitless mind is neither linear nor without setbacks. Stoicism is a practice, and like any discipline, it demands consistent effort and reflection. At times you may feel an exhilarating sense of progress, only to stumble when life throws unexpected challenges your way. Remain patient. The very nature of Stoic training is to prepare you for adversity, not to promise an unbroken string of successes. Each obstacle becomes a test, an opportunity to refine your philosophy. Even if you fail at times to uphold the Stoic ideals, that failure can become a lesson that propels you forward with greater insight. Over time, as you accumulate these lessons, you will notice a profound shift in your mental landscape. Fears that once loomed large no longer paralyze you. Anger that flared easily now smolders less frequently, and a sense of possibility replaces the old constraints of self-doubt. That is the essence of Stoic limitlessness, the gradual unveiling of your true capacity for reason, virtue, and inner freedom. As we transition to our final section, let us hold fast to the notion that the mind, disciplined and aligned with nature, can transcend the artificial boundaries imposed by fear, ignorance, and external pressure. We shall next explore how to sustain this transformation over the long haul, weaving Stoic principles into the very fabric of your life so that they become second nature, guiding you through every season and challenge. We arrive now at the concluding portion of this extensive dialogue on training your mind to become limitless through Stoicism. In the preceding segments, we have laid out the philosophical underpinnings and practical strategies that guide one toward greater mental freedom, recognizing the domain of control, practicing negative visualization, embracing virtues like courage and temperance, engaging in consistent self-reflection, and cultivating a perspective that transcends immediate circumstances. This final installment will focus on how to sustain and deepen your Stoic practice, integrating it so fully into your character that it becomes your guiding compass rather than a set of abstract teachings. In many ways, the crux of Stoic transformation lies in repetition and habituation. Epictetus reminds us that philosophy is something we must do, not just study intellectually. We become what we repeatedly practice. The mind, like a muscle, grows stronger through consistent and deliberate use. If you consistently question your impulses, examine your judgments, and choose virtue over vice, you rewire the mental pathways that once led you into anxiety or anger. Over time, these new pathways become second nature. Where you once might have felt overwhelmed, you now respond with calm deliberation. Where you once might have lashed out in frustration, you find yourself pausing to reflect. This metamorphosis is gradual, but its effects are profound and lasting. However, even as your Stoic practice becomes more ingrained, you will face moments of relapse. Life is unpredictable, and certain events, loss, betrayal, sudden misfortune, can shake your resolve. In those instances, remember the Stoic counsel to avoid self-condemnation. Berating yourself for not living up to the ideal only adds to the burden. Instead, calmly acknowledge the slip and revisit the principles that once guided you successfully. A brief stumble does not negate the progress made. It merely signals an opportunity to reaffirm your commitment. By reframing setbacks as lessons, you maintain the positive momentum of growth. Another important aspect of sustained practice is cultivating a supportive environment. While Stoicism teaches self-sufficiency of mind, it does not advocate deliberate immersion in toxic or draining circumstances. Seek companionship with individuals who respect your pursuit of wisdom, who encourage self-improvement rather than mock it. If your social circle is filled with negativity, gossip, or shallow pursuits, consider whether you can gradually shift toward relationships that offer deeper reciprocity and shared values. This does not mean you abandon old friends who do not share your philosophy, but you might set boundaries on how much time you spend in discussions that undermine your Stoic mindset. Life's shortness calls us to choose our influences wisely. Similarly, if you find fulfillment in certain activities that harmonize with Stoic principles, like volunteering, mentorship, creative expression, or martial arts training, pursue them wholeheartedly. Such activities reinforce discipline, empathy, or resilience, translating Stoic theory into tangible experience. The more you immerse yourself in constructive undertakings, the less room remains for idle rumination or detrimental habits. This integration of Stoicism into lifestyle choices strengthens your resolve and broadens your horizons. Beyond the personal sphere, there is a larger social or even political dimension to consider. Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, was keenly aware that his philosophical insights were not just for private solace, they shaped how he governed. While most of us will not rule empires, we each hold positions of leadership in some capacity, within families, workplaces, or communities. Stoic leadership involves leading by example, demonstrating integrity, fairness, and calm under pressure. When faced with conflicts, a Stoic leader seeks reasoned dialogue rather than impulsive decrees. When making decisions that affect others, he reflects on justice and the common good. This approach not only enriches those around you, but also solidifies your own Stoic commitment, as it challenges you to apply your principles in real, consequential situations. Speaking of leadership, one of the greatest services you can provide as a Stoic practitioner is to help others discover their own capacity for resilience. Whether through informal conversations or structured mentoring, share the insights you have gained. Offer guidance without pedantry or judgment. When someone struggles with fear or anger, reflect back to them the Stoic perspective that has aided you. Encourage them to question the sources of their suffering, to distinguish between what they can and cannot change. Show empathy for their struggle while gently reminding them of their inner power. In doing so, you fortify not only their journey, but also your own, for teaching is one of the best ways to internalize what you have learned. There is also value in periodically reviewing your life's trajectory in a broader sense. Seneca's letters reveal how he regularly contemplated whether his current pursuits were aligning him with wisdom or dragging him back into worldly vanities. You might designate a weekend each quarter or a day each month for deeper reflection, reviewing personal goals, moral progress, and relationships. Ask, have I allowed new forms of self-imposed limitation to creep in? Am I living in harmony with the virtues I espouse, or have I been swayed by superficial desires? Such periodic introspection can recalibrate your path, catching subtle drifts before they become entrenched. Think of it as a compass check on the journey toward the best version of yourself. In modern times, we have a plethora of information on psychology, neuroscience, and personal development, much of which echoes or complements Stoic teachings. If you find it helpful, you may integrate insights from these fields, as long as they resonate with the Stoic emphasis on reason, virtue, and self-awareness. For instance, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, draws heavily from Stoic ideas about how thoughts influence emotions. Mindfulness meditation, borrowed from Eastern traditions, parallels the Stoic practice of being present and observing the flow of impressions without getting carried away. Far from contradicting Stoicism, these tools can reinforce its principles, provided you remain grounded in the Stoic understanding of agency and moral purpose. Yet keep in mind that technology and self-help trends can sometimes create the illusion of progress without real transformation. Downloading an app or reading a book can be a step in the right direction, but lasting change still requires consistent action and reflection. The Stoics would caution against mistaking the acquisition of knowledge for the cultivation of wisdom. You must walk the path, not merely read about it. Each day, each hour is a chance to practice patience, to let go of resentments, to perform your duties with excellence, to speak truthfully, and to remain composed in the face of provocation. This is how the Stoic mind takes shape, through lived experience, tested in the crucible of real-world demands. Another subtle point concerns the pursuit of external success. Stoicism does not dismiss ambition, but it insists that you calibrate it with virtue and realism. If you chase success as a means to validate your ego or mask insecurities, you enslave yourself to outcomes. Conversely, if you strive to achieve excellence in your craft or profession out of a genuine wish to contribute and express your potential, that pursuit can be noble. but you must remain prepared to handle setbacks gracefully, never letting them erode your sense of self-worth. You take pride in the effort, not the applause. You measure success by how you uphold virtue during the process, not by the final tally of wins and losses. Such a mindset liberates you from the tyranny of external markers. You become an athlete in the arena of life, playing wholeheartedly yet serene, regardless of the score. Imagine the sense of freedom that arises when you fully integrate these Stoic principles. You wake up each day with gratitude, aware that time is finite and determined to use it well. You approach tasks with clear priorities, focusing on what truly matters rather than getting entangled in trivialities. You interact with others from a place of calm strength, offering help where you can, but not fretting over their judgments. When you encounter an obstacle, you assess it calmly. Can it be changed, or must it be accepted? You adapt your strategy without succumbing to despair or anger. You cultivate emotional poise, acknowledging feelings without letting them overshadow your rational judgment. And in the evening, you reflect on your day, grateful for the chance to grow and mindful of lessons learned. Gradually, worry, regret, and frustration loosen their grip. The horizon of possibility widens, and you sense that indeed, the only real limits are those that arise from ignorance or vice. Still, do not confuse Stoic limitlessness with a fantasy of perpetual bliss. Life will bring challenges, physical ailments, the loss of loved ones, downturns in fortune. A Stoic mind does not erase pain. It teaches you to bear pain with dignity and clarity. It reminds you that suffering, in many cases, arises from a mental narrative that amplifies the raw experience of discomfort or sorrow. By altering the narrative, seeing adversity as a test of character or a natural part of life's cycle, you transform the experience. This process might not eliminate every trace of distress, but it lessens its grip on your mind. You remain free to act ethically and purposefully, even when circumstances are dire. As a final consideration, let us discuss the legacy of a Stoic life. Your influence may extend beyond your immediate circle. Children, apprentices, colleagues, or even strangers who briefly cross your path might be touched by your calm, your integrity, and your kindness. You may never know the full extent of this influence, but rest assured that Stoic virtues have a ripple effect. In an age where division and anxiety often dominate, individuals who embody Stoic principles can serve as beacons of rational compassion. Their presence reassures others that there is another way to live, free of the incessant turmoil that so many accept as normal. And so we conclude our exploration of how to train your mind to become limitless, guided by Stoic philosophy. We began by recognizing that much of our limitation springs from misguided beliefs about what defines our worth and what lies within our power. We examined the practical tools Stoicism provides: negative visualization, value clarification, temperance, self-reflection, mindful presence, and more, and saw how these can be woven into daily life. We acknowledged that this path is neither quick nor easy, but that consistent practice fosters profound transformation. In the end, the Stoic invitation is clear. Dare to let go of the illusions, fears, and attachments that constrict you, and discover the inexhaustible capacity of your rational mind and virtuous heart. May these words serve you as a companion on your journey. Whether you are 25 or 65, you stand at the threshold of a deeper freedom. Each day offers new opportunities to refine your Stoic discipline, and each day you can awaken with the conviction that no matter what fortune brings, you possess within yourself the faculty to respond with wisdom, courage, self-control, and justice. This is the essence of becoming limitless in the Stoic sense, the ongoing realization that while the world may impose many circumstances upon you, It cannot dictate the quality of your mind or the character of your soul unless you allow it. Embrace this truth, live it, and watch as the boundaries you once feared dissolve into the horizon, leaving you free to walk your path with a steady step and a serene spirit. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day. My friend, I welcome you to a journey of discovery that has accompanied me for many years. It is a journey that leads to the doorstep of habits so profound, so unshakable, that once you cultivate them, you will find yourself less vulnerable to the upheavals of life. Some call these disciplines, or virtues, or even pillars of strength. But you and I, in our quiet conversation here, will know them as habits, daily, conscious choices that shape our character and our fate. And I promise you, when you master these 6 habits, truly weaving them into the fabric of your days, you will find that nothing, no adversity, no scornful voice, no unexpected tragedy can ever break your spirit. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Did you know only 15% of you watching are subscribed? If you find these insights valuable, join our community and tap the notification bell so you never miss out on future content. Before I name them, let me share with you a bit of background, a window into how I came to believe in the power of these habits. I was not always a Stoic man, nor was I always wise. In my youth, I was headstrong, passionate, at times reckless. I believed that force and sheer will could bend every situation to my favor. This worked until it didn't. My illusions shattered one by one, whether through disappointments in business, heartbreak in relationships, or the slow realization that my health and mind were not so easily tamed by raw stubbornness. Along the way, I stumbled upon the writings of the ancient Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and found in them a resonance that went beyond intellectual curiosity. I sensed that here, at last, was a path that combined rational insight with moral depth. Gradually, I began to assemble a set of daily practices, gleaned not only from Stoic writings, but also from common sense, from mentors, and from my own life trials. Over time, these practices became habits, ingrained in my routine and in my thinking. And as they solidified, I noticed a remarkable transformation. I was calmer in the face of setbacks, more deliberate in my actions, more secure in my worth, and less controlled by impulses or the judgments of others. Now, I share these reflections not to boast, but to illustrate the potential for change. If a once hot-blooded youth like me can find balance and inner fortitude, so can you. The 6 habits I will discuss are not complicated on the surface, but they do require dedication. Each habit feeds the next, creating a holistic foundation upon which your resilience is built. Though I speak in a measured tone, do not mistake my calm for lack of passion. I am deeply passionate about these habits because I have seen how they can turn an ordinary man into a beacon of steadfastness. Should you master them, you will become hard to discourage, difficult to unsettle, and unlikely to buckle under life's pressure. You might be lied about, misunderstood, even slandered, but your sense of self will remain intact and your spirit will press forward. When I say nothing can break you, I do not mean that you will never experience sorrow or frustration. We are human. We bleed, we cry, we yearn. What I mean is that these habits will protect the core of who you are. They will ensure that you can endure pain without succumbing to despair, handle loss without becoming lost yourself, and face the unknown without collapsing in fear. This is the essence of true strength. It does not deny vulnerability, but rather stands firm in the midst of it. Let me speak a little about why the Stoic tradition resonates so strongly in this context of unbreakable habits. The Stoics taught that our judgments about events are more crucial than the events themselves. They observed that much of our suffering stems not from external circumstances, but from our interpretation of those circumstances, our attachment to comfort, our dread of pain, our need for validation, our clinging to outcomes beyond our control. They believed that by training the mind to distinguish between what lies within our power and what lies outside it, we could liberate ourselves from needless anxiety. Over centuries, men and women have tested these ideas in every conceivable environment, from emperors in Rome to slaves in Greek households, and found them robust. Yet Stoicism is not the only source of insight, and I do not wish to confine us to one label. Indeed, as I have journeyed through life, I have seen parallel wisdom in religious teachings, in the codes of martial arts, in the practical advice of mentors and grandfathers. At heart, these traditions converge on a simple truth: character determines destiny more reliably than circumstance. Nowhere is this more evident than in the daily habits we choose, for we can speak noble words and dream of lofty ideals, but it is our habits that shape how we actually live and respond. The man who daily trains his patience, daily refines his priorities, daily checks his impulses, this is the man who, over time, becomes unshakable. You might wonder what these specific 6 habits are. Rest assured, we will explore them together. But first, let us lay a strong foundation by contemplating why so many men fail to develop such habits in the first place. Have you ever noticed how readily we slip into routines that weaken us, rather than strengthen us? We skim through social media the moment we feel bored or anxious. We snack on junk when we are stressed. We lash out verbally when we feel slighted. Repetition cements these behaviors into habits. Even though they offer no real nourishment for our mind or spirit, they become second nature. This is why men often feel broken after repeated disappointments. They have no mental or emotional scaffolding to prop themselves up when adversity strikes. But what if we replace these destructive micro-habits with constructive ones? Imagine a man who, every time he feels bored or anxious, steps away from the noise, takes a mindful breath, and reaffirms a core principle of his life. Or who, instead of grabbing junk food, drinks a glass of water, goes for a brief walk, or reads a brief passage from a wise text. Over time, these repeated positive actions become just as second nature as the negative ones were. The difference is that they fortify rather than erode his resilience. That is precisely the point of the 6 habits we shall delve into. They are like pillars in a temple, each one supporting the structure so that no storm, earthquake, or siege can topple it. Now let me also address an important question. Why 6 habits and not 5 or 7 or some other number? Truthfully, the number is less important than the content. I've found that in my own life, these 6 form a coherent whole, each reinforcing the others. If I had to list them succinctly, they could be described in a single breath. But we do not want a mere list, we want to live them. So we will proceed carefully, weaving a narrative around each, showing how it complements the others. Our aim is to see how they manifest not just in theory, but in the gritty day-to-day realities of a man's life, whether that man is leading a company, raising a family, or searching for purpose after many struggles. Before we dive into the first habit, I want to share a brief personal memory that encapsulates the essence of unbreakability. Many years ago, I encountered a man, let's call him Severus, who had lost almost everything in a span of months. His business collapsed due to an economic downturn, his marriage ended, and he was estranged from certain family members. He faced financial ruin, heartbreak, and loneliness, all at once. By any account, he had every reason to retreat into despair. Yet, when I met him, I was struck by his calm eyes and unruffled demeanor. He did not pretend that his losses were trivial, nor did he hide his grief. But he carried himself with a quiet dignity, acknowledging the pain without being consumed by it. We became acquaintances, and over time, I noticed that he practiced certain daily disciplines. He woke early, reviewed his day's intentions, reflected on what he could control, took care of his body through moderate exercise, meditated on gratitude, and read philosophy that reminded him of life's broader perspective. These were his habits. They sustained him through the darkest nights. Eventually, he rebuilt his financial footing, repaired some relationships, and found new meaning in philanthropy. He told me, with a hint of a smile, "Adversity may bend me, but it cannot break me if I hold to my disciplines." You see, a man like Severus did not just stumble upon an innate resilience. He cultivated it, day by day, through deliberate habits. That is the kind of resilience we aim for. One that does not rely on luck or fleeting motivation, but on a well-tended garden of daily practices. Each practice might appear small in isolation, but together, they fortify the spirit. When the storms of life arrive, as they inevitably will, these habits act like sturdy roots that keep the tree upright. Let me also be clear about another point. When I speak of 6 habits, I do not promise that they will shield you from all pain or ensure that you achieve worldly success. Pain is a teacher we cannot avoid, and worldly success is often subject to chance. But these habits will grant you a strong spine and a steady heart. They will keep you upright when others fall. They will help you respond to pain with wisdom rather than bitterness. And that, to me, is the very definition of being unbreakable. Now, let us gently move into the domain of the first of these habits, which forms a kind of bedrock for all the rest. It is the habit of reverence for the present moment, what some might call mindfulness, others might call presence, and still others might describe as paying attention to the here and now. Why start with this? Because if you lack awareness of what is unfolding in front of you, whether it's your own breath, your emotional state, or the subtle cues in a conversation, you will be swept along by impulses and external triggers. You cannot harness your will or direct your actions effectively if you are perpetually distracted. When a Stoic sage like Marcus Aurelius advises us to confine yourself to the present, he isn't preaching escapism or denial of past and future. Rather, he is urging us to ground ourselves in reality, to see things clearly as they are, and to respond from a place of clarity instead of a place of mental clutter. Imagine how many arguments erupt because 2 individuals are not truly listening to each other. They are lost in their own mental chatter, rehearsing retorts or recalling past resentments. Or consider how many mistakes we make at work because we let our attention drift, or how many joys we miss in family life because we're glued to phone screens. Cultivating reverence for the present moment means we pause, take a breath, and fully inhabit the situation at hand. This can be practiced in mundane tasks, such as washing dishes or walking the dog, and in consequential moments, like making business presentations or consoling a loved one. Over time, this habit becomes second nature. You catch yourself drifting, you gently bring your focus back to the person in front of you, the task at hand, or the breath flowing in and out of your lungs. In doing so, you prevent 1,000 small distractions from scattering your energy. You become a man who shows up fully, with both mind and heart attuned. This is not a new idea, nor is it exclusive to Stoicism. Many traditions emphasize the power of presence. But in the quest to become unbreakable, presence is crucial, because it is the only vantage point from which we can engage reality effectively. If you are stuck in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future, you cannot address the challenge that is right in front of you. Moreover, presence fosters calm, which is the soil in which rational thinking grows. When we are frantic or scattered, we are easily buffeted by fear or anger. When we are calm and centered, we can make choices that align with our deeper values and long-term goals. I recall a time when I was younger, juggling multiple commitments, work deadlines, family responsibilities, social obligations, feeling perpetually overwhelmed. A mentor noticed my frantic pace and said, "You are trying to live many moments at once, and that is why you feel so frazzled." His prescription was simple. Whenever you notice your mind racing, ground yourself in the senses, feel the chair beneath you, hear the ambient sounds, notice your breathing. It sounded almost too simple, but I tried it. And to my surprise, it worked. I found that I could handle tasks more efficiently and reduce my stress simply by returning to the present moment whenever I caught myself spinning out into hypothetical scenarios. Over time, this became a habit, a quiet anchor in my daily life. Of course, there's more to becoming unbreakable than simply staying present. Presence allows you to see clearly, but you also need moral and mental frameworks to guide your choices. That brings us to the second habit, which complements the first, governing the mind through reason and virtue. Now, I do not want to sound like a moralistic preacher, but one cannot ignore that men who lack a guiding moral compass, or who seldom employ reason in decision-making, are prone to chaotic living. They lurch from one impulse to another, from one fleeting desire to the next. Without a sense of higher principle, they are at the mercy of happenstance. Stoic teachings repeatedly emphasize virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance as the cardinal guides for human behavior. One does not have to be perfect, of course, but one should strive to align with these virtues as best one can. To develop the habit of governing the mind through reason and virtue means that in small daily choices, what you eat, how you speak, how you spend your money, how you respond to an insult, you pause and ask, does this align with the man I aspire to be? Is this consistent with wisdom, with fairness, with moderation, with courage? If the answer is no, you refrain. If yes, you proceed. By constantly referencing these virtues as though they were a compass, you gradually build a character that is stable and reliable under pressure. Here's why this habit is indispensable to becoming unbreakable. Adversity often tempts us to abandon our principles. When the going gets tough, many men justify unethical shortcuts, lash out in anger, or retreat into cowardice. If we have not trained ourselves, day by day, in the habit of living by virtue, we will likely fold under stress. But if we have repeatedly tested our will against small temptations, saying, no, I will be honest here, or I will hold back my anger, then in larger trials, we have the inner strength to remain true to our moral code. I've seen men under immense pressure, yet they refuse to lie or betray their conscience. They might suffer short-term losses, but they preserve their integrity. And in the end, that integrity proves to be a shield that no external misfortune can shatter. Let me provide a concrete example. Think of a man who is offered a bribe to secure a lucrative contract. He is financially strapped, the offer seems convenient, and the risk of being caught appears minimal. Without the habit of living by virtue, he might rationalize taking the bribe. But deep down, he knows that betraying his moral sense will sow seeds of guilt and compromise his integrity. If he succumbs, he becomes more vulnerable to blackmail, to shame, to fear of exposure. In essence, he is weakened, for he has let external pressures break his commitment to honesty. Conversely, if he has cultivated the habit of reason and virtue, he will reject the bribe, trusting that it is better to struggle honestly than to prosper dishonestly. Though he might face financial strain, he stands firm in the knowledge that he has not betrayed himself. Such inner fortitude is priceless, for it insulates him against the corrosion of guilt and the manipulations of unscrupulous people. Notice how these two habits, presence in the moment and governance of the mind through virtue, intertwine. You must be aware enough in daily situations to even notice the moral crossroads when you come upon them. You must also think clearly about your principles, which requires a certain grounding in the present. Thus, the habits support each other, weaving a stronger shield for your psyche. But these are only the first two habits of 6 that we will explore in greater depth. You see, as we continue, we will discover that the other 4 habits address aspects of resilience, such as how we handle time, how we manage emotional disturbance, how we practice gratitude, and how we sustain discipline in our daily routines. However, I must stress again, these are not random tips to apply piecemeal. They form a cohesive system, a tapestry of practice that transforms your outlook on life. I have witnessed men who, upon adopting even 2 or 3 of these habits consistently, found themselves calmer, more focused, and more confident in facing life's unpredictability. Perhaps you're curious about a typical day in the life of a man who has fully internalized these 6 habits. You might be wondering, does he float around on a cloud of serenity, unaffected by worldly cares? No. He still confronts obstacles, grapples with uncertainties, and experiences moments of frustration. But there is a difference. He does not cling to negative emotions or destructive impulses for long. He recognizes them for what they are, temporary states of mind, and gently returns to his guiding habits. He is aware of his surroundings, committed to his principles, mindful of how he invests his time, adept at recentering his emotions, grateful for the blessings he does have, and regular in his disciplines of body and mind. The sum of these practices is a personality that bends but does not break under strain. One of the reasons I feel so passionately about sharing these ideas is that I have seen too many men, friends, coworkers, even family members, succumb to despair or destructive rage when life hits hard. They lose a job or a marriage collapses, and they crumble because they have not laid the groundwork of resilience. They have not, in essence, built up the habits that protect them from life's inevitable storms. Sometimes they turn to alcohol or to constant distractions or to cynicism, hoping to numb the pain. But these coping mechanisms only weaken them further. The crisis ends, but the scars remain, and they have learned no new wisdom to prevent the pattern from repeating. On the other hand, those who have systematically developed these unbreakable habits face the same storms but emerge with their dignity intact. They may feel pain and sorrow, but they do not let it define them. They respond, adapt, rebuild, and, most importantly, grow from the experience. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that the very obstacles that threaten to break you can become stepping stones to greater mastery if you have the right mindset and habits. Embracing that principle is a defining trait of the unbreakable man. Now, I must caution you, adopting these 6 habits is not an overnight affair. It is not enough to read about them and nod in agreement. Real change requires consistent effort over weeks, months, and years. But the good news is that progress begets progress. As you see small victories, less anger in traffic, less regret at the end of the day, fewer wasted hours on fruitless pursuits, you will be motivated to keep going. The path becomes self-reinforcing, each success adding fuel to your resolve. It helps too to have a sense of community, or at least one ally who shares your commitment to growth. If you have a friend or partner who can keep you accountable, exchange insights, and encourage you during lapses, you will find the process smoother. But even if you must walk this path alone, remember that the voices of ancient sages, the lessons of books, and the examples of noble individuals throughout history can guide you. In that sense, you are never truly alone, for you stand in a lineage of seekers who have walked this road before. Let me also address the potential criticism that focusing on these habits might lead to rigidity or an over-controlled life. True Stoicism is not about becoming a robotic ascetic who never smiles or relaxes. On the contrary, once you have established these grounding habits, you often find more freedom to enjoy life's pleasures in moderation, more mental bandwidth to be creative, and more capacity for genuine connection with others. The discipline serves as a framework that liberates rather than stifles your deeper human potential. Imagine the difference between a musician who improvises with skill because he has mastered the scales and techniques versus one who randomly hits notes without training. The more discipline you have as a foundation, the more gracefully you can improvise in life. Indeed, the old philosophers often remind us that virtue, discipline, and presence are not ends in themselves but means to a flourishing life. They enable us to love without attachment, to work without obsession, to compete without malice, to laugh without guilt, to rest without laziness, and to help others without self-righteousness. They make us better husbands, fathers, colleagues, and citizens because we are not so easily derailed by petty emotions or fleeting temptations. In short, they help us become the best version of ourselves, a version that is, in the final analysis, much harder to break when adversity strikes. As we continue our exploration, we will delve into the other 4 habits in detail, each accompanied by examples, reflections, and practical tips for incorporation into daily life. Let me outline the journey we will undertake in these next parts, though I will do so only in the broadest strokes, as you requested minimal topical signposting. Essentially, we will see how mastering our time, harnessing emotional resilience, practicing gratitude and perspective, and establishing disciplined routines each play a crucial role in fortifying us from within. We will also examine how these habits interact, forming a tapestry that shields us from the harsh winds of fortune. Before I close this first section, I want to leave you with a simple exercise to prepare for what comes next. Look at how you spend your day tomorrow. From the moment you awaken, try to be aware, at least sporadically, of your mental state. Are you present, or do you drift through tasks on autopilot? When confronted with a small annoyance, do you apply reason and virtue, or do you respond impulsively? You need not judge yourself harshly, just observe. This awareness will set the stage for implementing the habits that I will soon describe. If you skip this step of observation, you might read the subsequent discussion with intellectual interest, but miss the chance to anchor the concepts in real-life experience. Now, I can sense your anticipation, and I do not wish to tease you further. Yet, I firmly believe that understanding the context, why these habits matter, and how they fit into a Stoic or generally principled framework lays the foundation for truly assimilating them. We have begun that groundwork. In the upcoming portion of our journey, we will delve more concretely into each of these habits, offering a narrative that not only explains, but also inspires. You will see that these habits are not mere philosophical abstractions, but practical instruments you can wield daily to stay strong in a chaotic world. May you rest well with these thoughts, letting them kindle a flame in your mind. And as we reconvene for the next segment, prepare yourself for a deeper immersion into the disciplines that have shaped countless resilient souls across history. Indeed, I promise you, my friend, if you faithfully integrate these habits, you will find that no storm can wash away your resolve. No tragedy can permanently darken your heart. You will stand as a testament to the quiet power that emerges when a man commits to living his life with intentionality, virtue, and unwavering presence. My friend, I'm glad you've returned for the next stage of this journey. Perhaps you've spent some time contemplating the first two habits we touched upon: the habit of remaining present in the moment and the habit of governing your mind with reason and virtue. If so, you may already have sensed the subtle shifts that come from practicing them even briefly. But as you know, there are 4 more pillars to this framework, 4 additional habits that, once cultivated, will strengthen your resilience to a point where adversity cannot break you. Today, we will delve into the third habit, a practice concerning the wise use of time. Few things slip through a man's fingers more easily than time. We take it for granted when we believe we have an abundance, and we lament its scarcity when we realize how precious it truly is. Ancient Stoics like Seneca wrote extensively about how men squander their hours in trivial pursuits, only to wake up one day and discover that life has nearly passed them by. Modern technology makes this even more challenging, as distractions beckon from every corner. Endless online feeds, trivial entertainment, mindless browsing. If we are not vigilant, our days dissolve into a haze of scattered activity that leaves us feeling unfulfilled. But how do we transform the concept of time management into a resilient habit rather than just another chore? The key is not to micromanage your schedule minute by minute, nor to obsessively log every activity in color-coded spreadsheets. That might have its uses for certain tasks, but the Stoic emphasis lies in intentionality. Let us phrase it this way. At the start of each day, decide on a handful of actions or goals that, if accomplished, would give the day meaning and value. They need not be grand feats. Perhaps you aim to complete a specific project at work or spend uninterrupted time with your children or your partner. Maybe you want to read a chapter of a profound book, reflect on a philosophical passage, or take a brisk walk at day's end to clear your mind. The point is to anchor your day to a small set of deliberate priorities that foster your growth or serve your responsibilities in a meaningful way. By choosing these key actions, you erect a scaffold around which your day can form. And once that scaffold is set, you become more resistant to pointless distractions. It's not that you never watch a film or browse the internet for leisure. You are not a monk living in total ascetic withdrawal. Rather, you have a compass that keeps you from drifting too far off course. A man who truly values his time is less likely to surrender whole afternoons to idle scrolling or gossip. He might still enjoy moments of rest, but he does so with awareness, consciously deciding, yes, I will rest now because it replenishes me, rather than aimlessly killing time out of boredom. This approach requires neither perfection nor rigidity. Life has a way of throwing unforeseen tasks or emergencies your way. You might have to rearrange your plans. But even then, the habit of cherishing your time, of recognizing it as a finite resource that demands respect, will guide your decisions. You become less tolerant of anything that wastes your hours without adding value to your life or to the lives of those you care about. Here is why mastering your use of time strengthens your resilience. So often, men feel broken not just by major catastrophes, but by the creeping sense that their lives are slipping away, that they are not living authentically or productively. They might keep busy, but busyness alone does not equate to meaningful progress. If you dedicate yourself daily to the things that truly matter, learning, relationships, health, fulfilling work, personal reflection, you accumulate a sense of purpose. That sense of purpose, cultivated bit by bit, acts as a bulwark against despair when adversity arrives. Even if a crisis disrupts your routine or forces you to pivot drastically, you retain the underlying conviction that your time is valuable and that you know how to invest it wisely. In my own younger days, I often frittered away countless hours in trivial pursuits. I'd lounge in taverns with acquaintances who spoke endlessly about nothing of substance, or I'd sleep half the morning out of laziness. Eventually, I realized that while I was free to do these things, they did not advance any noble aspect of my life. They left me with a hollow feeling. It was then that I resolved to treat time as a precious currency, not out of grim seriousness, but out of a desire to shape my destiny with intention. I can attest that once this habit takes root, it transforms the texture of your days. Idle chatter or pointless diversions begin to feel foreign, even distasteful, because you have tasted the satisfaction of purposeful living. Yet, do not misunderstand, a life guided by purposeful use of time does not forgo pleasure or spontaneity. In fact, pleasure can be sweeter when enjoyed consciously, as a chosen activity rather than a default escape. You might set aside an evening to watch a film or share laughter with good friends, fully present and unburdened by guilt, because you know you have tended to your key priorities. Such leisure is far more nourishing than mindless escapism that leaves you anxious about neglected responsibilities. Weaving this habit into your life can be as simple as taking 10 minutes each morning or the previous night to outline your day's core aims. Don't obsess over every detail. Just ask, what truly matters for me to achieve or experience today? This question might be answered differently depending on your stage in life. A young man building his career might prioritize professional tasks or skill acquisition. A father might focus on quality time with his children or sustaining a peaceful household. A retiree might concentrate on creative pursuits or volunteer work. Regardless of your situation, the principle remains: do not let external pressures and random impulses dictate your agenda. Seize the rudder of your day, even if only in a modest way, and navigate with purpose. Now, I can almost hear your next question. That sounds useful for daily living, but how does it help me remain unbreakable when life goes awry? Consider the man who has cultivated a powerful sense of purpose from these daily habits of time management. When adversity strikes, say a sudden job loss or a personal betrayal, he does not lose the ground under his feet entirely. He still possesses the mental skill of structuring his time effectively. Even under stress, he can wake up, decide on small constructive tasks for the day, and prevent himself from sinking into a pit of despair or aimlessness. Each small victory reaffirms his capacity to move forward. By contrast, a man unaccustomed to directing his time often finds adversity doubly disorienting. With no framework in place, he may drift, consumed by anxiety or resentment, losing hours to unproductive rumination. Over time, that drifting can erode self-esteem and fortitude, leaving him vulnerable to a deeper sense of brokenness. With that, we come to the fourth habit, which I call emotional self-regulation through awareness and detachment. Let us be very clear. Stoicism, in its essence, is not about suppressing or denying emotions. Rather, it aims at guiding them with rational insight, ensuring that fear, anger, sadness, or euphoria do not hijack our judgment or control our destiny. Men frequently pride themselves on being tough, but being truly unbreakable means more than a stony exterior. It means understanding the currents of emotion that flow within you, acknowledging them, yet not letting them dictate your actions or your state of mind for longer than is necessary. We all know how a burst of anger can lead to regrettable words, how a wave of panic can cause us to abandon reason, how sorrow can spiral into despair if left unchecked. Emotional self-regulation means pausing when a strong feeling arises and recognizing it for what it is, a transient state, a signal from your psyche. You don't immediately act on it. You don't deny it either. You name it, observe it, and let it settle. If anger flares, you might say internally, "Ah, there is anger. My pride was hurt, or I perceive an injustice." Then you breathe, and you ask, how does wisdom suggest I respond? This act of stepping back from emotion creates a gap, no matter how small, between the stimulus and your reaction. The practice of mindfulness, introduced as Habit 1, plays a key role here. When you're consistently present in your body and mind, you notice emotional shifts earlier. You can detect the tightening in your chest or the clench of your jaw when anger looms, or the acceleration of your heartbeat when anxiety arises. By catching these signals, you can intervene before the emotional wave takes over. Imagine it like being a skillful surfer who can sense the wave building and position himself accordingly, rather than being a hapless swimmer tossed about by an unexpected surge. Detachment, in this context, does not mean apathy. It means you learn to see your emotions as phenomena rather than as identities. You are not your anger, your sadness, or your fear. Those feelings are passing states, influenced by biology, thoughts, and external events. By detaching from them slightly, watching them rather than merging with them, you retain the power to choose. Sometimes you may decide to channel your anger into assertive action if an injustice truly must be addressed. But you'll do so with clarity, not blind rage. Consider a concrete example. You are in a meeting at work, and a colleague publicly criticizes your recent project, implying you're incompetent. Immediately, anger and embarrassment well up. Without emotional self-regulation, you might snap back defensively, or carry a grudge that poisons future interactions. But with Stoic detachment, you note the emotion rising. You let the initial flush of anger pass through you, acknowledging it, but not fueling it with self-righteous internal dialogue. Then you decide how best to respond. Perhaps you calmly ask for specifics, or perhaps you state your perspective in a measured tone. In the end, your dignity remains intact, and the conversation stands a better chance of reaching a constructive resolution. This practice, repeated over time, cements a powerful habit. Emotions no longer bully you into rash words or hasty choices. Why does this matter for becoming unbreakable? Because life's harsh blows often strike us at an emotional level. A betrayal by someone you trusted can spark a maelstrom of rage and despair. A financial crisis can incite panic. Health problems can provoke fear of mortality. If you have trained yourself in emotional self-regulation, these storms can buffet you, but not destroy you. You'll still feel the pain, but you won't flail in it without direction. You'll gather yourself, respond thoughtfully, and prevent the negative emotion from wreaking havoc on your life. Over time, you build confidence that no matter what emotional challenges emerge, you can navigate them with a measure of grace and composure. Let us move to the fifth habit, the daily expression of gratitude and perspective. Now, gratitude might sound like a soft virtue, something that is nice to have, but not crucial to unbreakable resilience. On the contrary, cultivating gratitude is among the most potent ways to remain grounded when adversity strikes. Why? Because gratitude shifts your focus from what is lacking or wrong to what remains good and sustaining in your life. It is not denial of problems. It is a recognition that alongside problems, there are still blessings, however small, that anchor you in hope and appreciation. Gratitude also expands your perspective. You begin to see that, while you might be enduring hardships, you have endured hardships in the past and survived. Or that there are people in dire straits far worse than yours. Or that there is still fresh air to breathe, the warmth of the sun, the kindness of a friend, the promise of a new morning. Such reflections do not magically erase your troubles, but they prevent you from sinking into absolute despair. They remind you that life is multifaceted, pain and beauty coexist. The ability to hold these truths simultaneously is a hallmark of a resilient mind. A simple way to incorporate gratitude is through a brief nightly reflection. Before sleep, you can spend a few moments recalling events of the day that brought satisfaction or comfort, a supportive conversation, the pleasure of a good meal, the laugh of a child, progress on a task, or even just the fact of your continued health. Some men prefer to write these down in a small journal, while others simply recount them silently. Over time, this practice recalibrates your internal lens, making you more attuned to positives rather than fixated on negatives. Then, when a major negative event occurs, you are less likely to collapse under its weight because your mind has been regularly nourished by reminders of what is still worth fighting for. Let me share an anecdote about a man I knew, a colleague who faced a brutal series of losses. The death of a parent, a divorce, and a career setback, all within months. He told me he might have succumbed to deep depression if not for his nightly gratitude practice. Every night, despite his grief, he forced himself to list at least 3 things he appreciated that day, no matter how trivial they seemed. Some nights it was little more than, "I enjoyed a hot cup of tea," or "my neighbor smiled at me in the hallway." Yet these small blessings served as life rafts in a churning sea of sorrow. They reminded him that life, even in its darkest stretches, still offered moments of warmth. Gradually, he emerged from despair, bolstered by a mental habit that refused to let negativity monopolize his awareness. Moreover, gratitude nurtures humility, which is essential for reason and virtue to flourish. When you recognize that much of what sustains you, health, support of loved ones, opportunities, are gifts beyond your sole creation, you become less arrogant. You become more generous and more receptive to lessons. And that open, humble stance fortifies you further, making it easier to accept help when needed and to offer help when you can. It's a beautiful cycle. Gratitude begets humility, humility begets openness, openness begets growth, and growth nourishes resilience. Having laid out these 4 habits in detail, presence in the moment, governance by reason and virtue, wise use of time, emotional self-regulation, and gratitude, let us now address the 6th and final habit: regular self-reflection and personal calibration. This habit acts as a unifying thread, tying together all the others and ensuring that your growth is ongoing rather than static. Life is never stagnant. As we gain new experiences, confront fresh challenges, or endure losses, our perspective inevitably changes. Without regular self-reflection, you might drift from your principles or let your habits lapse. Self-reflection does not require elaborate rituals, though some men find structure helpful, such as journaling or a weekly review session where they examine how they lived the previous days. The essence is simply to take a step back and ask, am I living in alignment with the habits I treasure? Where have I slipped into old tendencies or let emotion get the better of me? How am I allocating my time, and is it consistent with my values? What new lessons has the week taught me about resilience? By systematically posing such questions, you shine a light on blind spots. You catch small deviations before they become major derailments. You refine your approach to each of the other habits, ensuring they evolve with your changing circumstances. Now, some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better" every day, so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. In addition to looking back, self-reflection also looks forward. You might consider upcoming challenges or goals and plan how to apply your habits more effectively. For instance, if you know a tense family gathering is on the horizon, you can rehearse how to stay present, maintain emotional self-regulation, and practice gratitude, even if old conflicts resurface. This proactive reflection is akin to a Stoic exercise called premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of evils, in which you anticipate potential difficulties so that you can face them with prepared composure rather than blind panic. Coupled with daily self-reflection, it creates a powerful system of mental readiness. Let me emphasize that self-reflection is not about self-criticism in a destructive sense. There is a difference between examining your failings with honesty and berating yourself harshly. If you catch yourself falling short in a particular habit, perhaps you have been letting social media devour hours of your day, or you've snapped at loved ones in anger. Acknowledge it calmly and resolve to improve. Wallowing in guilt or shame serves no purpose other than undermining your confidence. Instead, let your reflection be guided by a solution-oriented mindset. Ask, how can I implement a change or strengthen my awareness so that this lapse becomes less likely in the future? And here is why this 6th habit cements your unbreakable stature. Life is dynamic, and no matter how strong your foundation is, new pressures can arise that test your mettle. Without periodic recalibration, even the most disciplined man can gradually stray from his path. But with a consistent practice of self-reflection, you remain vigilant. You spot signs of stagnation or complacency. You adapt your habits to new phases of life. A father whose children are grown has different daily focal points than a new father, for example. Yet the underlying commitment to presence, virtue, time management, emotional regulation, and gratitude remains. Thus, self-reflection ensures you continually refine your sword, never letting it rust or become blunt through neglect. Now, my friend, we have named all 6 habits, weaving them into a tapestry of resilience. 1. Reverence for the present moment. 2. Governance of the mind through reason and virtue. 3. Wise use of time. 4. Emotional self-regulation through awareness and detachment. 5. Daily expression of gratitude and perspective. 6. Regular self-reflection and calibration. But I caution you again, do not treat this as a mere checklist. Each habit intertwines with the others, creating a holistic framework. When you practice presence, you become more adept at using your time intentionally. When you use your time intentionally, you find more space for gratitude and reflection. When you reflect regularly, you refine how you handle your emotions and maintain your moral compass. It is a self-reinforcing cycle. Yes, we have named them individually for the sake of clarity, but in day-to-day life, they converge into a way of being, an approach to life that fosters calm, integrity, and a sense of invincibility in spirit. You might wonder how to begin implementing all this without becoming overwhelmed. The wisest approach is to start incrementally. Rather than attempting to perfect all 6 habits at once, pick 1 or 2 to emphasize for a few weeks. Perhaps you start by setting daily intentions, the 3rd habit, and journaling each night for self-reflection, the 6th habit. After building consistency there, you add a short morning practice of mindfulness, habit 1, or a midday gratitude pause, habit 5. The aim is gradual assimilation, not abrupt transformation. Over time, these disciplines will embed themselves into your routine, and you'll find that the synergy between them accelerates your personal development. Moreover, it's crucial to maintain a spirit of patience and forgiveness toward yourself. You will have days, perhaps many days, when old patterns resurface or life's demands disrupt your best-laid plans. That is part of the process. The unbreakable man is not one who never stumbles. He is one who, upon stumbling, regains his footing and continues forward. Treat each setback as an opportunity to learn about what triggered you, what emotional vulnerability or external factor led you astray. Then use that lesson to refine your approach. In my own journey, I recall struggling mightily with emotional self-regulation for years. I would manage fine in routine situations, but a sudden insult or a feeling of being disrespected could send my temper flaring. Each time I felt I had failed my Stoic ideals, but I refused to succumb to self-loathing. I would reflect on the incident, noticing the precise moment I allowed emotion to seize control. Over months of conscious effort, the instances of losing my temper diminished. And though I am still not perfect, nor do I believe perfection is attainable, the progress has made me more steady, more at peace, more unshakable. It is also valuable to remind yourself of the why behind these habits. Ultimately, we do not pursue them just to impress others or to hide behind a veneer of cool composure. We do it to live fully. Men often confuse being unbreakable with being cold or emotionless. That is a misunderstanding. To be unbreakable in spirit means to be fully alive, able to experience the breadth of human emotion without collapsing under it, able to engage with the world's demands without surrendering your inner compass, able to endure loss or failure without losing the will to continue striving for the good. Thus, we do not bury emotion, we guide it. We do not chase external validation, we anchor ourselves in virtue. We do not float through days absent-mindedly, we cherish our time as a priceless gift. We do not let trouble blind us to the gifts we already possess, we embrace gratitude. And we do not remain stuck in old routines. We regularly examine ourselves and adjust course as needed. Through these habits, we grow into men who can stand tall amidst the fiercest storms life throws our way. Let us consider a hypothetical scenario to show the power of these habits working together. Imagine you lose a significant business deal, one you'd spent months pursuing. Immediately, heartbreak or anger might flare. Your livelihood or reputation might be at stake. With presence of mind, habit 1, you feel that rush of adrenaline, but keep your awareness grounded. You recall your commitment to reason and virtue. Habit 2. Deciding not to lash out at clients or sink into unethical coping strategies. Next, you restructure your day's plan. Habit 3. To address urgent financial needs, perhaps contacting colleagues or exploring alternative leads. Emotional self-regulation. Habit 4. Keeps you from letting fear paralyze your decision-making. Gratitude. Habit 5. Helps you remember other sources of support. Family, mentors, prior successes that can sustain you during this setback. Finally, nightly self-reflection. Habit 6. Allows you to analyze what went wrong, how you handled it, and what might be done differently in the future. This approach, repeated consistently, transforms a potentially devastating defeat into a learning experience that, rather than breaking you, refines you. Throughout my own life, I have seen countless men confronted by crises not of their own making. Illnesses, accidents, economic downturns, and some collapsed while others persevered. Often the difference lay not in raw talent or luck, but in the habits they had cultivated beforehand. Those who had quietly forged inner discipline weathered the storm. They found ways to adapt, to keep hope alive, to maintain their moral character, and ultimately to rebuild. Meanwhile, those who had never set boundaries on their time, never managed their emotions, never cultivated gratitude or reflection, found themselves spiraling with no internal bedrock to steady them. There's a certain humility in acknowledging that we cannot control every event. We may lose jobs, face breakups, or suffer tragedies. But within that humility lies our great power. We can control our responses, and our responses hinge on the habits we have ingrained. Mastering these 6 habits is, in essence, a way of harnessing our personal power, not to dominate others, but to master ourselves. At this point, you might sense a rising eagerness to integrate these principles more deeply into your life. Or perhaps a cautious skepticism. Can these really withstand the harshest realities? I would answer that no philosophy or method can grant you a life free from pain, but a Stoic-inspired regimen of habits can ensure that even the harshest realities do not destroy your inner core. I've witnessed men who, after personal catastrophes, reflected that their habits, daily journaling, mindful attention, moral grounding, were what kept them from disintegrating. Many of them say that adversity ultimately revealed to them the profound strength they had cultivated all along. Indeed, one might say the final test of these habits' worth is how they function in extreme adversity. Let us say you face a tragedy like the sudden loss of a loved one, or a medical diagnosis that upends your life. In those moments, your emotional self-regulation does not banish grief, nor should it. You will weep, you will mourn, you will feel the weight of loss. Yet, because you've trained yourself not to be ruled by emotion alone, you will also find the capacity to tend to practical matters, to seek support from friends and professionals, and to eventually channel your grief into honoring the memory of what was lost, rather than succumbing to nihilism. Your gratitude habit may help you treasure the memories and love that existed, reminding you that those blessings, however fleeting, had immeasurable value. Your reflection habit will guide you through the process of recalibrating your life in the aftermath. And so, piece by piece, you rebuild. What might have broken you entirely instead becomes a crucible that hardens your character into a form both compassionate and resolute. To reinforce what we have explored, let me recommend a gentle approach. Start where you are, with what resonates most clearly. Maybe you are already skilled in time management but struggle with emotional detachment. Or perhaps you regularly reflect on your day but neglect mindful presence. Pinpoint the weakest link in your personal chain of habits and begin strengthening it. As you see improvements, integrate the other habits more fully. Keep a log if it helps. Sometimes writing a single sentence about your progress at bedtime can cement your commitment. For instance, today I spent the first hour after work in mindful silence, and I noticed how it improved my interactions afterward. You may also choose to read more deeply in Stoic and related philosophies. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is a prime example of daily self-reflection in action. Seneca's letters offer practical advice on time usage and emotional self-control, while Epictetus hammers home the crucial distinction between what we can and cannot control. Their words can serve as daily companions, reinforcing your resolve. But remember that reading alone is insufficient. The real alchemy happens when you apply the principles, stumbling and rising again. In the final analysis, these 6 habits are not about achieving some perfect Stoic ideal. They are about forging a life that is robust, purposeful, and worthy. In mastering them, you do not become immune to life's shocks, but you do become far less likely to shatter under their impact. The sense of nothing can break you arises not from arrogance, but from the calm assurance that you have internal resources no external force can truly destroy. I hope that the seeds we've planted here find fertile ground in your mind. As you move forward, imagine each habit taking root and intertwining with the others, forming a living, growing framework of resilience. Let it be your shield, your guiding star, and your steady companion through the varied landscapes of life. Part of you may feel a quiet exhilaration at the prospect. If I truly commit to these habits, how much more capable, serene, and grounded will I become? That spark of enthusiasm is precious. Nurture it. Let it lead you to tangible steps, day by day. One morning of mindful presence, one evening of gratitude, one conscious act of emotional restraint, one weekly session of self-review. These small acts accumulate into an unassailable fortress of character over time. And I promise you, my friend, the day will come when you look back on your old self, the one more prone to fear or distraction, and realize how far you've journeyed. At that moment, you'll carry within you a serene conviction that no matter what lies ahead, you have built a mind and heart that can endure. In our next conversation, I'll share further reflections on how to integrate these habits even more seamlessly into different spheres of life: work, family, friendships, and personal challenges. We will also explore potential pitfalls, such as perfectionism, burnout, or misinterpretations of Stoicism that can lead to emotional repression. For now, though, take a moment to absorb what we've covered. Reflect on the synergy of these habits and how they form a blueprint for inner resilience. And remember, the path of the unbreakable man is, at its core, a path of daily choices, gently repeated, woven into the fabric of who you are. Until we meet again, carry this knowledge with a light heart. Do not let it weigh you down with the pressure to be flawless. Instead, let it inspire you with the realization that your destiny is, in large part, shaped by the habits you choose to cultivate. And with each mindful breath, each principled decision, each grateful nod to life's blessings, you are forging the unbreakable within. My friend, in our previous conversations, we have laid out all 6 habits in some detail: presence in the moment, governance of the mind through reason and virtue, wise use of time, emotional self-regulation, daily gratitude, and regular self-reflection. By now, if you've been following along, you may feel both inspired by the vision they present and somewhat daunted by the idea of sustaining these practices in a world that is often chaotic and full of distractions. Let me assure you, this reaction is normal. Growth rarely comes without challenge, and adopting these habits in earnest can indeed reshape your routine, your relationships, and your sense of self. As we begin to wrap up, I want to delve into the question of application. How do we integrate these 6 habits into our everyday life in a way that is both practical and long-lasting? In my experience, the men who see the greatest benefit from a Stoic-informed regimen of habits are those who find ways to adapt and personalize them, blending them with their individual duties, passions, and circumstances. After all, no 2 men lead the same life. We vary in our professions, our family structures, our cultural backgrounds. Yet, the universality of these 6 habits lies in their capacity to align us with core human values: awareness, morality, discipline, emotional intelligence, gratitude, and introspection, regardless of external differences. Let us begin with a brief reflection on how these habits can aid a man in his professional domain. Picture someone who works long hours in a high-stress environment. He might be a manager in a busy firm, a frontline worker handling customers, or a specialist juggling complex tasks. Such a man could easily become a victim of overwhelm, losing sight of his deeper purpose amid deadlines and quotas. But if he adopts the habit of starting each day by clarifying his top priorities, the wise use of time, he gains control over his schedule before chaos intrudes. If he remains present, rather than letting his mind slip into constant distraction, he can handle tasks more efficiently. Emotional self-regulation helps him respond calmly to work conflicts, avoiding blow-ups that could tarnish his reputation or undermine his leadership. Gratitude keeps him aware that, despite the pressures, he may have a job that puts food on the table and offers avenues for growth. Regular self-reflection ensures that he learns from missteps and refines his strategies. And all the while, grounding himself in virtue helps him maintain honesty and fairness in his dealings with colleagues, clients, or subordinates. You can see how these practices, woven into a daily professional routine, generate a compound effect. Far from being intangible ideals, they translate into tangible outcomes: improved decision-making, better interpersonal dynamics, and reduced stress. Over time, a man recognized for his calm under pressure and his moral integrity tends to rise in esteem. Even if his career path is winding, he carries within him an inner poise that external setbacks cannot wholly dismantle. Conversely, without these disciplines, even a skilled or intelligent man may become undone by office politics, stress, or moral compromises. Another domain to consider is personal health and well-being, both physical and mental. Many men in the 25 to 65 age range grapple with balancing work, family responsibilities, and self-care. They might yearn to exercise more, eat better, or reduce stress, yet find themselves sabotaged by old habits. This is where presence of mind and wise use of time become especially potent. If you are accustomed to drifting through your day on autopilot, you may graze on unhealthy snacks or skip workouts simply because you didn't plan otherwise. But if you start your morning by setting an intention, today I will take a 20-minute walk, or I will choose a healthy lunch, and remain mindful of that intention throughout the day, you are far more likely to follow through. Emotional self-regulation can quell the impulse to stress eat or overindulge. Gratitude can remind you how fortunate you are to have a body capable of movement, deserving of care. And again, self-reflection at day's end can reveal patterns of success or relapse, guiding you to adjust accordingly. Physical well-being, in turn, reinforces mental clarity, creating a virtuous cycle. A strong, rested body supports a calmer, more focused mind. Instead of feeling at the mercy of cravings or fatigue, you gradually become the steward of your own energy. Life's pressures still arise, but you have more stamina and presence to face them. Over the years, I've come to see bodily self-care not as vanity, but as a moral responsibility, an application of reason and virtue to the domain of health. After all, how can we serve our loved ones or fulfill our potential if we continually neglect our body's fundamental needs? Family and close relationships provide another rich field for these habits. For many men, the home is where their deepest joys and also their deepest conflicts reside. We love our partners, children, or relatives, but we can also find ourselves losing patience, falling into petty quarrels, or failing to be truly present. Here, emotional self-regulation might be the most immediately transformative. The next time a loved one's behavior irritates you, your child refuses to do his homework, or your spouse criticizes something you hold dear, pause before responding. Notice the surge of anger or frustration. Name it. Breathe, and remember your commitment to reason and virtue. That recollection alone can spare you from saying words you'd later regret. Instead, you may address the situation with clarity and empathy, preserving harmony rather than fueling conflict. Likewise, gratitude can mend rifts or soothe tensions at home. When you train yourself to notice and appreciate small daily kindnesses or comforts, a meal cooked by a partner, a child's laughter, the shared roof over your heads, you cultivate an atmosphere of positivity that buffers the inevitable friction. No relationship is perfect, but gratitude helps you see the good amidst the challenges. Wise use of time might mean carving out moments of genuine connection, a walk, a shared hobby, an unhurried conversation, rather than letting screens or routines crowd out family intimacy. Self-reflection can help you spot communication patterns that sabotage trust, prompting you to adjust. Over time, these small but consistent actions create a familial environment of respect and warmth. None of this implies that conflict disappears. Even the most devoted family encounters disagreements or crises, financial strains, health issues, or emotional hurts. But with these habits as a foundation, you become far less likely to let conflict escalate into irreparable damage. Instead, adversity can become a catalyst for deeper understanding and mutual support. In this sense,
The promise of being unbreakable extends beyond the self. It radiates outwards, fostering relationships that can weather storms rather than crumble at the first sign of trouble. It's also worth considering how these habits play out in friendships and broader social circles. As we age, many men find their circle of true friends shrinking, often because they are consumed by work or family duties, or they outgrow connections that were forged in younger, more carefree days. Social life can become sporadic, leading to a sense of isolation or reliance on superficial interactions. With the 6 habits in mind, you can reclaim intentionality in your friendships. You might schedule regular meetups or calls, using your time wisely to maintain bonds with people who truly matter. You can approach conversations with presence, listening actively, rather than letting your mind drift to tasks or anxieties. Emotional self-regulation helps you avoid falling into gossip, envy, or competitive one-upmanship, all of which can erode genuine camaraderie. Gratitude extends to the gift of having companions in life, reinforcing your desire to invest in those relationships. And self-reflection helps you notice when certain friendships are supportive and when they are toxic or misaligned with your values. A man whose friendships are grounded in authenticity and mutual respect gains a robust social safety net. When hardships strike, be they personal, financial, or emotional, true friends step in to offer counsel, resources, or simply a listening ear. Conversely, without these strong social ties, adversity can feel immeasurably heavier. While the Stoics emphasized self-reliance, they never advocated complete solitude or disconnection. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly spoke of our nature as social beings, woven into a larger community. Friendships, when nurtured by the right habits, become another pillar that steadies us when life's tremors arise. Now let me address a potential stumbling block: the risk of perfectionism. Some men, upon discovering Stoic or similar disciplines, become overly strict with themselves, aiming for an impossible ideal of self-control and unerring virtue. They may chastise themselves harshly for any lapse: an hour wasted, a flash of anger, a moment of mindless indulgence. This can backfire, leading to burnout or to a sense of perpetual inadequacy. The remedy lies in remembering that these habits form a path, not a final, flawless state. You are a traveler along this path. You will stumble. Stoicism does not demand that you never feel anger or waste time, only that you continually strive to do better, to learn from missteps, and to align more closely with virtue and wisdom. Self-forgiveness is part of the process. You do not condone your errors, but neither do you let them define you. Another pitfall is misinterpreting emotional self-regulation as emotional suppression. We must clarify that acknowledging and experiencing emotion is healthy and necessary. A Stoic approach means you do not let emotion rule you, but you also do not deny its presence. Indeed, the capacity to grieve, to love deeply, to feel sorrow for injustice, these are all signs of a richly lived life. The difference is that you remain aware even as emotion flows through you. For instance, if a loved one passes away, you do not attempt to be tough by shutting down grief. Rather, you permit yourself to mourn, yet keep a thread of mindfulness that allows you to see your grief as a natural response, not an all-consuming identity. In that sense, Stoic detachment grants you a stable vantage point from which you can navigate emotional currents without capsizing. Closely related is the risk of isolating oneself in the name of self-sufficiency. Some men believe that to be unbreakable, they must never show vulnerability, never ask for help, and never form deep attachments. This is a distortion of Stoic teaching. True Stoicism recognizes our interdependence and encourages forming healthy bonds, provided we remember that we ultimately cannot control others' minds or destinies. Asking for help when genuinely needed does not negate your self-reliance, it complements it with wisdom. For instance, if you are struggling with depression, Stoic principles do not forbid seeking therapy or leaning on close friends for support. On the contrary, reason and virtue would guide you to do whatever fosters the best outcome for your well-being and moral duty. Now, if we are to truly wrap up this conversation, we should consider the question: what does the unbreakable man look like in his day-to-day existence? Let us paint a small portrait. He wakes up with a sense of purpose, not necessarily leaping from bed with boundless enthusiasm every single day, but with a clear intention set the night before. Over morning coffee, he might reflect briefly on the key tasks ahead and reaffirm his commitment to presence, virtue, and gratitude. If negative thoughts intrude, anxiety about finances, frustration about a recent argument, he acknowledges them, notes their cause, and decides whether they merit immediate attention or can be released. At work, he maintains focus, avoids gossip, and treats colleagues respectfully, applying reason when conflicts arise rather than succumbing to anger. Even if a meeting is tense or a decision is unpopular, he remains composed, giving a measured account of his perspective. During breaks or the commute, instead of defaulting to aimless distractions, he might briefly read something uplifting or simply sit in silence, observing his breath. He keeps track of time, ensuring key priorities are addressed, yet allows for moments of spontaneity or rest when needed. If he feels stress building, he pauses to breathe, reminding himself of the bigger picture and the values he serves. At day's end, he returns home not as a ball of frustration to be unleashed on family, but as a man who might share a meal with genuine attentiveness, ask his partner or children about their day, and respond to their joys or worries with empathy. Later, he invests a few minutes in reflection, maybe journaling about what went well, what triggered negative emotions, and how he handled them. If he slipped, raised his voice unnecessarily, or frittered away time, he notes it without self-condemnation, resolving to do better tomorrow. He might end the night by listing 3 points of gratitude: an interesting conversation, a problem solved, a moment of laughter. Then he sleeps, having planted seeds of calm and purpose in his mind, ready to bloom when morning light returns. On weekends or holidays, this unbreakable man balances leisure with growth. He might engage in a hobby that challenges him: woodworking, sports, reading, volunteering, something that nourishes both body and mind. He maintains a measure of presence even in recreation, savoring the act of play without letting it devolve into mindless time wasting. He invests time in friendships that uplift him, checking in with old friends or forging new bonds through shared interests. He remains open to life's surprises, neither clinging desperately to routine nor wandering aimlessly. Now, one might say, that sounds lovely in theory, but real life is messier. Indeed it is. Crises erupt, from health scares to financial shocks. The day's plan can be upended in minutes. But that is precisely the point of these habits. They provide stability within chaos, not by removing chaos, but by teaching us to navigate it. The man we describe does not sail on perpetually calm seas. He sails skillfully, even when the waves are high, because he has practiced, again and again, the maneuvers needed to keep afloat. His boat may take on water at times, but it does not sink. I would also invite you to see how these 6 habits form a kind of philosophical safety net. If you fail to remain present at some juncture, your wise self-governance may still guide you. If your emotions flare out of proportion, your daily gratitude practice might soften your mood. If you squander time on a given day, the habit of self-reflection will catch that lapse and prompt course correction. Like an interconnected system, each habit supports the others, lessening the risk of catastrophic failure when one link in the chain weakens. There is, in addition, a subtle dimension of joy that arises when you live in alignment with these principles. While unbreakable can sound austere or purely defensive, the reality is that fortitude opens doors to richer experiences. When you are not weighed down by regrets, addictions, or runaway impulses, you can engage more fully in the beautiful moments that life does offer. Whether it's watching a sunset, listening to music, bonding with a loved one, or immersing yourself in a creative project, the ability to be truly present and to act from virtue amplifies pleasure. You savor more because your mind is unclouded. Stoicism has often been caricatured as grim asceticism, but its true practitioners have known deep contentment, precisely because they are not enslaved by passing fears and appetites. Let me also address those who might be in later stages of life, perhaps retired or semi-retired, and wonder if it is too late to adopt new habits. The answer is a resounding no. Our ability to learn and adapt remains until our final days, and the Stoics themselves taught that each day is a chance for renewal. If you have years of entrenched patterns behind you, do not despair. Begin with small steps, set a modest daily intention, reflect for 5 minutes at night, or direct your gratitude toward the wisdom gained over a lifetime. You might be amazed at how quickly a sense of vitality returns when you make these practices a priority. Moreover, with the perspective of accumulated life experience, you may find it easier than a younger man to distinguish what truly matters from what is trivial. Conversely, for younger men who feel they have plenty of time ahead, be wary of complacency. It is in youth that habits are formed most firmly, and the character you develop now will shape decades to come. If you embed these 6 habits early, you give yourself a head start in resilience that will benefit you in countless ways, professionally, personally, emotionally, as you traverse the unpredictable terrain of adulthood. Before we move to our final part, Part 4, which will complete this entire journey, let me share one last story to illustrate the unbreakable spirit in action. I once knew a man, call him Cato, who had grown up in a turbulent home environment. He was prone to anger and impulsive decisions well into his 20s. A turning point came when he discovered the writings of Seneca in a library one afternoon. Intrigued by the Stoic notion that our judgments determine our emotional responses, he began practicing some of these principles. Gradually, over a period of 2 years, he integrated daily mindfulness, took stock of how he managed his time, applied reason to check his temper, and cultivated gratitude for small mercies in his life. Then a severe challenge arrived. An economic recession led him to lose his job, and he faced the possibility of eviction. Old acquaintances expected him to spiral, perhaps drown his sorrows in drink or lash out at everyone around him. Instead, he marshaled his Stoic training. He confronted his anger and fear without letting them rule him. He reorganized his schedule to seek new employment systematically, networking by day and studying relevant skills by night. He practiced gratitude for the supportive friends he had, the modest savings that allowed him to buy groceries, the public library that provided free computer access. Daily self-reflection kept him honest about what actions were working and what had to change. Within months, he found new work, less prestigious than before, but steady enough to keep him afloat. That might not sound like a triumphant rags-to-riches tale, yet in many ways, it was more profound. Cato emerged from the crisis not broken, but strengthened by the knowledge that his Stoic habits had kept him stable under dire financial stress. He later rebuilt his career on a more solid footing and pursued it with a clarity that people around him admired. They saw him as a man who did not panic, did not wallow in self-pity, and did not compromise his ethics even when desperate. In short, they saw an unbreakable man. He once told me, "I used to think adversity was the enemy, but now I realize it's the test that proves the value of my daily disciplines." That, to me, captures the essence of everything we have discussed. Life will test you. It is not a question of if, but when. By cultivating the 6 habits day by day, you arm yourself with the mental and moral tools to pass these tests without fracturing. And in the passing, you discover a steadfastness that enriches not just your own life, but the lives of those who rely on you. As we near the close of this 3rd segment, I encourage you to reflect on your next concrete steps. Which habit do you feel most drawn to strengthen first? Have you set aside time to plan your day tomorrow, to ensure your hours serve your higher aims? Have you identified moments, perhaps a lunch break or evening wind down, when you can practice mindful presence or gratitude? Will you commit to at least a brief period of self-reflection each night this coming week, noting your triumphs and lapses? Take these questions seriously. Answer them in writing if you can. The path to mastery lies not in grand declarations, but in these small, consistent acts of commitment. In the final portion of our journey, we will tie all these threads together, offering a culminating perspective on what it truly means to master these 6 habits, and how to remain steadfast despite the unpredictability of existence. Until then, hold fast to the spark of determination that has led you this far. That spark, fanned by discipline and guided by a sincere desire for growth, can become a flame that no storm can extinguish. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos, and if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.